to call this meeting of the Bedford County Board of Supervisors to order. Thank you for coming. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you to put it on silent or vibrate. Also, for the gentlemen in the room, if you could remove your hats.
And Mr. Chair, this is also the broadband authority for the record.
All right, and we're also calling the meeting of the broadband authority to order as well. All right, we're going to open this meeting with a moment of silence. All right, and if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we have the approval of the agenda. Mr. Hiss.
I have no further additions other than what's already posted or published.
All right.
I'm sorry, could everyone pull their mics down? They can't hear you. Thank you.
If there's no other changes to the agenda, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
You've heard the motion by Mr. Scott to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've got an agenda. All right, first up we have the citizen comment period. This is 15-minute citizen comment period. We might go a little long, but we have a number of people signed up. I will ask each person to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. I'm actually going to start a timer. And I hate to do it, but if we're going beyond 3, I'll bang the gavel on you. So I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to speak, but we don't want to be here all night. So, but everyone will have their opportunity. First up, I have Donna St. Clair. And by the way, if I don't call on you, I'll ask if there's any others. So if you haven't signed up, you'll still have an opportunity to speak.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest that if someone's got something to say that's already been said, that they can just kind of shorten their comments and not repeat exactly what's been said before. That may be savable.
Oh, so they can't speak on anything that's on the agenda?
Yeah, and if it's something that's on our agenda that's got an action item, then it, or a public hearing, then this is not the time to speak on that. So, because I know we have an action item or a public hearing for the Smith Mountain Lake Airport, but that's, I'll call on you later. All right, I haven't started the timer on you yet. All right.
I'm Donna St. Clair, and I do have a couple of letters from friends who were not able to be here. Was wondering if I could pass them along to the board for your consideration for the record.
Sure.
And also my written remarks, which are a little long and tedious even for me. So I guess what I want to say most of all is that I have great concern related to the article that was printed in the Bedford Bulletin June 24th that had to do with a resolution that was read by Mr. Davis that includes the following language: collaborate with other counties and tell the governor you are no longer implementing his guidelines, but will develop county-specific guidelines. I am extremely, extremely concerned with 145,000 Americans dead and the numbers going up, that we would attempt in any way to manage a global pandemic from the village of Bedford. I think that is risky at best, certainly against the law. And I think the thing that concerns me most is how many of our Bedford County friends and relatives are we willing to allow to be sick or die out of dislike of Governor Northam. that concerns me, as I believe it should concern everybody here. I think at the end of the day, the lives of ourselves and the people we love should be more important than politics. Just today, we lost Joseph Carson. His wife is battling the virus that killed him. There will be other Josephs in the days ahead. The problem for you would be if you took this on, the blood is on your hands. As it stands right now, it's on Governor Northam. If he does well, he gets the credit. If half of Virginians die, he gets the blame. If I were sitting in your seat, I think I'd be pretty happy with that arrangement. I don't think I'd want the blame coming down on me. I don't think anybody here has a scientific or a medical background. I don't think anybody here is equipped to be able to handle a global pandemic. So I offer my remarks tonight in memory of Joseph Carson, who I know was very important to many people. And I hope if you have considered such an ill-advised action that you'll reconsider. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We next have Chris, looks like Holmes, maybe? That's me. Couldn't tell if it was an H or an M.
I apologize for my handwriting. I'm Chris Hughes.
Hughes.
That's right.
Big Island, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yep.
You guys are busy. You got a room full of people with very important stuff. I'll be brief, and I mostly just want to introduce myself to you. I'm Chris Hughes. I've been the public affairs manager out at Georgia Pacific's Big Island for about a year, a little over a year. I've been with GP now for about 3 years, served in a couple of different facilities. I'm a military veteran, served my country in uniform for 27 years.
Thank you.
I'm from Richmond. I graduated from Hampton-Sydney College. I served a little bit with Charlie Company over in Lynchburg. When I left the region in 1990, all expected the lights to be going out for this whole region as one manufacturer after another fell, one business after the other had failed. Returning 30 years later, not only did the lights not go out, I find a more diverse, productive economy than I left. And I really want to commend you for that. A little bit about the Big Island Mill. It's owned and operated by Georgia Pacific. That's part of the Koch Industries company. The mill's been operating in Bedford for 130 years. That's really amazing when you think about it. Benjamin Harrison was president when the mill began operations. We're still one of the region's largest employers, about 330 employees. Some are third and fourth generation. One gentleman just celebrated his 50th anniversary working at the mill. We're an important taxpayer here in Bedford. It's our pleasure to contribute in this manner. Mr. Koch refers to it as the virtuous cycle of mutual benefit and feels like all of our relationships should be win-win, and we certainly feel like this one is a win-win. Like all business these days, we're concerned with the global economy moving forward, the global pandemic. The demand for our product has been erratic. We do a container and liner board product. We make boxes. I think we're all experiencing this in every element of our life. There are many unknowns here. We've got a really smart team, and this team has been around the block a time or two. We've been through fires and floods, depressions, recessions, world wars, and as the guys like to say, every phase of the Industrial Revolution. We'll get through this one. Rest assured, we will get through this one. One thing I want to bring to your attention, and you're probably aware, the Commonwealth of Virginia published this morning the Emergency Temporary Standard on Infectious Disease Prevention, and this was adopted by the Safety and Health Codes Board in July. This is a big deal to us. It has our full attention. Compliance with all laws and regulations is a cornerstone of our culture with Georgia Pacific, and it goes without saying that our employees' health and well-being is most important to us. We've closely monitored this for the last several weeks, and we're working diligently to comply with this standard. What can you do for us? Buy our product. If you see that Christmas tree with a GP on it, I want you to buy it, pick it up, Angel Soft, Quilted Northern, please do that. Use our paper boxes. Pleasure meeting you all. I'll leave behind some business cards, and we'll look forward to meeting you all in person in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Evans Reynolds.
Good evening. I took this opportunity to address y'all together in light of the technical review committee report that's going to be talked about tomorrow, I believe, regarding the new London airport and the Liberty University plans. I know you're talking a different airport tonight. I've talked to most of you already about this. I've seen the plan that Liberty has submitted. It looks to me like it's very close to a jet-capable runway. And I know they have a flight training school, and those two will create a tremendous loss of property value for us. We believe, representing Terrace View subdivision, about 150 property owners, that if you held that property to the 50% expansion on agricultural preserve, they would not be able to put a jet-capable facility there. And that is the only prudent way to protect our interests. So I'll be talking with you more about this. I know there'll be other opportunities, but we're going to be present at the Technical Review Committee meeting tomorrow, and any other opportunity I have to talk to you folks about it, I'll be happy to do it, and I hope that you can see your way clear to look after us, keep our backs from suffering that loss if that jet-capable facility gets built there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Alan Boaz.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies and fellow citizens. My name's Alan Boaz. I live at 1389 Bud Lane, and I just happen to be the chairman of the Bedford County Broadband Advisory Committee, and I want to give you a quick update and kind of bring you up to speed on some problems we're still dealing with. I want to talk about, first of all, a little history about the contracts, and I'm going to stick to the script so I can get through this. The original comprehensive master agreement dated 2018-10-25 included a management agreement under Exhibit G. In the later agreement dated 1/6/19, the Exhibit G has been removed. This is the one that was approved and signed. Therefore, Exhibit G is concerned with management. Keep that in mind. Therefore, the reason Anthony Smith with Blue Ridge Towers did not apply to the RFP is due to his disillusionment with the county. This was caused by delays that were not Blue Ridge Towers' fault, and the failure of the county not being able to resolve the issues with Blue Ridge Regional Water, Bedford Regional Water rather, in a timely fashion. Because of this lack of understanding of the issues with some board members, the blame was placed unjustifiably on Blue Ridge Towers. Now I want to talk about the RFP that was generated as a result of taking this Exhibit G out, and also Exhibit F. The RFP, the problem with the RFP, having an RFP that was recently put out, and I think its period is now over. We have like one response to this RFP. The problem with the RFP is the fear that a large outside of the area company, and I'll give you some examples, Crown Castle, American Tower, etc., will respond. They have no interest in low-paying wireless internet providers on the towers or the interests of Bedford County in general. We'll be losing our control. My experience tells me that they will try to strong-arm the county into selling the towers to them. The other problem with the RFP is that it's strictly a maintenance proposal. It covers only inspections, ground maintenance, mowing, drainage, painting, checking utility cabinets, fences, maintaining roads, and maintaining secure access controls to the tower complexes. There is no mention of management. Management meaning the actual business of running the actual tenant relations and marketing of the towers to other communications providers. I don't believe the county government is suited or staffed appropriately to take on the function. So who will do this? The management is necessary in order to generate income to the county from the towers. This is a keystone of the project to make it, over time, pay back the county and provide money for future expansion of the system. Is that my time? Can I have a few more minutes?
I can guarantee you another minute. If you need to.
Okay, let me just get through this real quick.
For a longer period of time, then, we should probably do it in a work session or.
Okay, well, let me just say a couple
What's on
more.
the agenda?
Let me say a couple more things. I know that this we're going to take care of that in another RFP. And I have some solutions, and I also have an update if you were interested in where we stand today on the project. Does anybody want to hear that?
Is the same one you emailed to us?
No, this is brand new, came off the printer this afternoon before I left.
We had one, I saw one back here. So, okay.
Can I do that? It's up to you. I'll do whatever you
If
ask.
if you want to maybe do it during the board committee reports, but that's going to be towards the end of our meeting.
I don't mind.
I just don't want to break the rules for you.
No, I don't want you to do that. And I'll be glad to stay to the end of the meeting, and I'll take care of this then.
Okay.
That's okay with you? It's okay with me.
All right.
All right, well, thank you for giving me the few minutes that I have.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Next up, Doug Cooper.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am Doug Cooper from Huddleston. I wrote a letter to the Bedford Bulletin, and I copied each of you, and I copied all the school board members. And as you know, they changed their rules of, I guess, code of conduct, code of dress code, to specifically state Confederate flags and swastikas. And specifically is the key word. Once you start that, then the list is going to grow and grow and grow. People on our side of the issue were okay with the way it was. It said anything. And the teachers and the administrators, they had the opportunity to deal with specific situations as they come up. I think, now I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one on TV, but my lawyer tells me that the law is, in order to suspend a student, you've got to prove, it's a very strong thing, you've got to prove that it caused a disturbance, a debilitating disturbance, it's some strong words there. And I don't think that's happened in Bedford. I only know of one incident, and they said that people were offended, students were offended. Well, I'm offended when my Confederate ancestors are besmirched. Do my feelings matter? Or is it just some people's feelings that matter? I noticed a beloved governor took Robert E. Lee's statue out of the Capitol, and he said it was to show that the state was inclusive. Well, I'm not included. Why am I not included? It seems to me that all views should be included. So I don't know what you as a board can do. I think you have the purse strings, and they're going to be spending money. If they stay on this route, they're going to be spending money to defend this, I can guarantee you. And it may be money that's needed for teachers. They're always complaining about money for teachers and schools, but they seem to have money to do things like this. So I hope that you will take a look at that, and I appreciate your time.
Next up, Mike Moldenhauer.
Good evening. My name is Mike Moldenauer. I'm president of the Board of Directors at the Bedford Family Area YMCA. On behalf of the YMCA, I extend our appreciation for being afforded the opportunity to come before the board relative to the allocation of funds recently received by the county pursuant to the CARES Act. I'm confident that the board and its members are aware that Bedford County and the town of Bedford have been designated as a child care desert by the Virginia Department of Social Services. The Bedford YMCA is the largest child care provider in Bedford County. We've been operating child care programs that meet all local and state requirements for over 30 years. These programs are generally located in the elementary and middle schools, strategically located in the areas where our youth are residing. The partnership between the Bedford County School System and the Bedford YMCA has had a positive impact on the community. The availability and accessibility of working parents to obtain child care services is critical to maintaining and sustaining their ability to work. The current COVID pandemic rendered a bad situation worse. The lack of 0 to 5 year child care is particularly bad. The Bedford YMCA has included in its current strategic development plan for the construction of a large daycare center on its property located on 460 West. The cost of that facility is estimated to be $750,000 to $1 million. We're here to request that the Board of Supervisors consider allocating a significant portion of the funds received from the CARES Act to address this critically important service deficiency and to inform the board that the YMCA is prepared to assist in any form and in any way we can to remove our community from the child care desert list. I thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions? Thank you. Next, I have William Purvett. Correct. Correct. Okay.
Hi, I'm William Perret. Appreciate you listening to me tonight. I also live in Terrace View, and I'm also opposed to the New London Airport. I hope that when you consider this, that you keep the zoning exactly the way it is. I hope that you spell out what's actually going to happen over there. There hasn't been a lot of transparency in my viewpoint. Like, what exactly is Liberty trying to do? I know they want to build a school over there, and even with propeller planes, it'd be sort of like to know, how many planes and what kind of hours. We're sort of under the impression it's going to be 24/7 over there. So I have grave concerns. My property, I'm worried about what's going to happen to my property if I ever want to sell it. And I hope it will be with Mr. Reynolds tomorrow too at your working meeting. I know you're not supposed to comment on it, but if you have time, I would also like to make some comments on that. So I hope you would take that under consideration, and before anything gets voted on, there's some kind of plan and it's spelled out to the public so they know exactly what's happening over there. And that's pretty much what I have to say. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next tab, looks like G. Lynn Coppage.
Thank you all for the time. It won't be long.
Did I get it right?
Coppage, yeah, it's Lynn. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Tuck, Ms. Parker, Ms. Bansley, Mr. Giss, and Mr. Scott, because you all have en masse tonight. It disturbs me that public officials, including some of you who are here before us, have chosen to put my health in jeopardy by not wearing a mask. I've worn a mask to keep your health healthy. When I walked into this meeting, I saw our sheriff and deputies, public officials, not wearing a mask, putting my health and the health of everyone else in this room who is not wearing a mask and who is of age as I am in jeopardy. This virus thing cannot be made a political issue, although some have done so and are choosing to do so. While we have been fortunate in Bedford to have such few cases, we cannot allow that to lull us into inaction. We must be vigilant. My wife is soon to be 79 years old. She benefits from the YMCA because she goes there often. And thankfully, the YMCA requires everyone in the building to wear a mask when they go from one area to another. And of course, when they're performing exercises, you don't have to because you can't. But those of you on our board of supervisors who are sitting here without masks can. And if you care about me and my wife and everybody else in this room and everyone else in our county, I urge you to reconsider your position. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I have no one else signed up to speak for the public comment period. I have.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is the lady I told you that I told she didn't have to, public comment period.
Oh, sure, just,
Please.
yeah. Like I said, I don't have a sheet for you, but you're allowed to come up. That's why that's this time. If you did fill out a sheet, maybe it's filled out for the wrong.
I'm sorry, yeah, he told me to put it sheets.
Yeah, that's fine.
I always listen to the sheriff too.
Gotcha. I am also a Terrace View resident, citizen,
Please state your name. for the
Elissa
record.
Bowen. Elissa Bowen.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So my concern today and what I'm asking is for representation in the issue of the airport, the New London Airport. For political gains, people went in the positions that you guys so graciously volunteer your time for. It is something that you go around the communities and you do things to impress the citizens to get the votes. And for our district, there's nobody representing us right now to do that for this airport situation. And I guess what I'm asking is we need something to go on that will either do a consolidated board or somebody appointed to inform the citizens. As Bill had mentioned, nobody knows about this, so we really need to be telling the folks what's going on, when the meetings are, the information that we all need to know to make a decision together what's best for the folks living in that area. And so what I'm asking is if somebody could help us to learn about what's going on. I know we can't ask questions to you guys, but I feel like there's nobody representing us because of the situation where the conflict of interest with our representative is going on. I constantly talk to people, they don't know about it. I just found out about the meeting, and that's tomorrow. Of course, I don't go all the time to the website, but there should be somebody working for us. That's the bottom line, working for us, representing us. That's how the process works, and we don't have somebody. So I'm asking to please give us the solution to that, either as a group or individually or whatever is suggested, because right now it's not working. People don't know, and therefore it's not going to be a decision that's going to make the majority happy, and there'll be people unhappy. Not everybody's going to be happy, but I think people need to be informed. So I am not for the airport. Learjet situation is very scary to me for multiple reasons, health issues for people. I know there's environmental issues that weren't even addressed. I think there's regulations. I never heard anything about that. But property values, et cetera. Not for it. Please consider doing something to help inform the public. That's it.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, the technical review committee meeting that's tomorrow, that's not the Board of Supervisors. So I'm not going to be in attendance at that meeting. I'm going to be at work.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. We don't know even
So,
what's what.
but I mean,
It's on the bus.
so the Board of Supervisors couldn't, I mean, I'm just saying that you have representation. All 7 members of this board represent all of the citizens of the county. So I have to at least take umbrage with that, because all of us represent all of the members of the county. But I will say, the technical review committee, that's not a Board of Supervisors function. There may be members of the Board of Supervisors in attendance at that meeting, but that is not a Board of Supervisors function.
We just need someone to lead this group that is one of you. And telling the people in that district, this is going on, this is what it means, this could be the outcome, this kind of thing.
I have no idea what to expect, so I couldn't tell you. I don't know what is coming up in the technical review committee.
And I don't know if there's funds that are allocated for you guys to do your jobs, something for the newspaper. It's just hidden. It's hidden, and it makes me afraid.
It's more transparent, put it out there on paper.
There was a notification. What's going on with the feedback?
I think it's because Bob didn't have a mask.
But there was notification, public notice put on the website about members of the board may attend this technical review committee, but I only know what is posted on that site as well. I haven't gotten a phone call informing me as chair of any information that's going to occur at that meeting tomorrow. So to imply that I should inform you about something I know nothing about is a stretch, because I know nothing about it.
Will we eventually know there's going to be a lot of jets around to that airport?
I'm assuming there's going to be a discussion tomorrow, but again, that's not coming to the Board of Supervisors. If there's a public hearing for the Planning Commission or a public hearing for the Board of Supervisors, that will be advertised and it will be in the newspapers and everyone will know about it. So if there's any decision being made by the Board of Supervisors, you'll know about it.
If we put out there, we'll be able to comment before a vote is taken?
If it's public hearing. And I would assume any kind of rezoning would require a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
My name's Ron Snow. I live at 3971 Bethel Church Road, Evington. And most of my citizenry here have already mentioned their opposition to LU. I'm also a teacher, and I can do math pretty well. And I just want to make a little statement about something that occurred. I sit in my living room at my house, and I watched LU pickup truck twice go by my property, 2 days in a row. The next night, Sunday night to Monday morning, 15 to 20 signs that all had this on it disappeared. And then, of course, Monday, we've got LU wanting to redo their airport. Like I said, I do math. I put 1 and 1 together, and I'm sure not coming up with 3. So somebody, I think their signs are still on New London. So I'm opposed to the airport too, or any kind of expansion, especially when they're trying to put jets in there. We'll let that go until we have that meeting. Did you want to take my time?
Hi, I'm Lisa Hawkins, 3132 New London Road. So I want to comment on the Technical Review Committee meeting also tomorrow. This is not about rezoning, it's about, if you read the details, changing the property line. And it was very clear in the final determination letters The law is clear, the regulations are clear. Liberty cannot expand that runway onto adjacent property, which is not zoned appropriately for that use. So what I don't understand is why we're even allowing this technical review committee to go forward without demanding a 20-year airport master plan. We've been asking the same question for well over a year. Every other university flight school has it. You can go online right now, read Purdue University's master airport plan. Go look at Ohio State's. It's a very large document with all the details that everybody wants to know about what kind of planes, what the expansion planes are, what the noise levels are. Everything is in these documents, and yet nobody is demanding that Liberty produce this kind of document, yet we keep continuing down this road in another format. So I think before anything happens, you guys need to demand this document from Liberty. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Jana. I live in Cherokee also, as a lot of other folks here. Lifelong resident in Bedford County, and I just wanted to kind of echo other comments being made about there's an urgent need for transparency on this. Liberty, you know, they get exceptions to a lot of things, and I think they're getting pushback because this is an especially, to me, someone who's lived here my whole life, kind of heinous lack of transparency about something that could grossly affect health, environmental conditions, property values, all of those things that are really important to the forest community. So just urge you all to ask for the basic things that every other aviation school is required to provide, including a 20-page or a 20-year airport, basically telling us what they're going to do. That's not asking a lot. That's asking for the minimum, actually. An additional thing that personally, as a public health professional, I would like to see would be a health impact report or health impact assessment in HIA, which is also pretty standard to do if you're going to be flying larger aviation aircraft. So the lack of willingness to show any forethought or transparency and just even what their plans are is the most alarming part to me, and I think many other folks. So we'd really like to see that, and we hope that improves.
Thank you.
All right. Any others? All right, seeing none, I'll close the citizen comment period and move to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Mr. Hiss?
We just had two items this evening under the consent agenda. Item A is consideration of a resolution to accept and appropriate CARES Act grant for the Registrar's Office. And then item B is consideration of a resolution accepting federal funding for the Southern Virginia Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force.
Okay, you've heard the...
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
All right, Mr. Johnson's made a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
No.
If it's not unanimous on a consent agenda item, do you know which item you're opposed?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any discussion that we've had on the CARES money being appropriated for the Registrar's Office.
So you would like to pull that one aside?
I sure would.
Okay, so then that, because it's not unanimous, that cannot be on the consent agenda. That'll be the first action item. We'll make it 9A1. The other one, Mr. Johnson, I'll ask you to withdraw your motion.
Done.
All right, and the other one is the federal funding for the Southern Virginia Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Mr. Davis, is that a problem?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
would you like?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as revised.
Okay. All right. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Bainsley?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for May 11th, 2020.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
All right, Mr. Scott made a motion to approve the minutes as we've received them. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have a public appearance. This is a resolution recognizing Kiera Lord. Yes. Where does Kiera live?
Mars.
Okay. I'll I better keep the glasses. All right. I'm going to read this for the benefit of everyone here. This is a resolution in recognition of Kiera Lord. Whereas Miss Kiera Lord was with her mother in their car on May 29, 2020, when her mother lost consciousness while driving. And whereas Kiera stayed calm and drove the vehicle safely to the side of the road. And whereas Kiera's quick thinking averted a potential traffic accident. And whereas, in spite of the fact that Kiera is 14 years old and does not yet have her driving license, she managed to steer the vehicle. Now therefore be resolved that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors hereby recognize Ms. Kiera Lord's quick thinking, potentially life-saving actions.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you.
I can please have Kirsten Thompson and her family come up, please. Kirsten has earned something, the first one in Bedford County. Whereas Stanton River High School senior Kirsten Thompson recently earned her Stars and Stripes Award from American Heritage Girls for her upgrade and cleaning of Glenwood Park in the town of Bedford, Virginia. Whereas the project involved more than 50 hours of cleaning, mulching, painting the basketball courts, the little playground, adding 2 bike racks, adding a little free library, and adding a bench made from snowboards. Whereas, 2 benches made of snowboards. Whereas the project was approved by the town of Bedford, Bedford Public Works, which supplied most of the items needed, the Bedford Rifle Brace, Sons of the Confederate Veterans, the General William R. Terry United Daughters of the Confederacy, Liberty University, American Heritage Group Troop 1556, Calvary Chapel, Lynchburg, and over a dozen volunteers. And whereas Ms. Thompson is the 47th person in all of Virginia, the 612th in the nation, but the first in this part of the Commonwealth in the 24 years of the program to receive this award. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes Miss Kirsten Thompson for her outstanding dedication and achievement. Let's give her a hand.
Charlotte to speak at my funeral. Ms. Bailey, would you speak at my funeral? Good job. Congratulations.
Sheriff Miller, would you like to present the next one?
Yes, sir.
I put my glasses on.
Okay.
Major Gardner. As he's coming up, I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of times in life when the Lord puts somebody in your life and you don't know why. But through that, with Major Gardner, he's one of them that recruited me 36 years ago. And he has been a mentor to me throughout my career at the sheriff's office. When I ran for sheriff, he was a supporter of mine, which I surely appreciated. And he told me, he says, Mike, I'll give you 6 months, is what I'll do, get you on your feet. And that was awesome, because he was able to do that, and I was able to get on my feet as the sheriff of the county that newly elected. So it is a great honor that I stand up here with you tonight and present you this resolution in recognition of Ricky Gardner's service to Bedford County. Whereas Major Ricky Gardner was appointed and began his service as a deputy sheriff of Bedford County on October the 1st, 1979, so over 40 years. Whereas Major Gardner brought his experience serving in the U.S. Army National Guard from 1975 to 1984, served as a member of the Bedford Lifesaving Crew from 1972 to 1984, a deputy sheriff from 1979 to 1984, a criminal investigator from 1984 to 1996, sergeant of investigations from 1996 to 1998, a lieutenant from 1998 to 2002, captain from 2002 to 2006, and Major Gardner from 2006 to 2020. Whereas Major Gardner has been a tireless supporter of local, state, and federal policing and law enforcement initiatives to make our community safe for both residents and officers. And whereas he has been relentlessly in his endeavors to keep all citizens safe, including holding convicted murderers Yen Soren and Elizabeth Haslam accountable for their crimes. And whereas he was an Officer of the Year for the Roanoke Home Builders Association in 1982, graduated from the Virginia Forensics Academy in 1986, and served as a member of the Virginia's Board of Directors for the Regional Organized Crime Information Center from 2008 to 2020. And whereas Major Gardner's leadership has developed an outstanding department comprised of highly qualified professionals who continuously work to keep Bedford County a desirable and safe place to live. And whereas Major Gardner will retire June 30th, 2020, after 40 years of service to Bedford County. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors hereby express their sincere thanks, heartfelt appreciation to Major Ricky Gardner for his dedication to Bedford County and to the public service, and wish him a long, happy, and healthy retirement. John Sharp, Chairman.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank
Godspeed. Wouldn't be surprised to find you in Germany someday. All right, next we have, this one's resolution in recognition of Jeff Johnson's service to Bedford County. So, Jeff? is a resolution in recognition of the Jeff A. Johnson service in Bedford County. Whereas E911 manager Jeff Johnson began his employment with Bedford County on November 1st, 1988. And whereas Mr. Johnson served as a dispatcher through 1996, as corporal assistant supervisor through 1999, as communications shift supervisor through 2006, and the E911 manager through July 2020. And whereas throughout his career, Mr. Johnson has been the first contact for multitudes of citizens seeking help due to violence, tornadoes, blizzards, firestorms, the 2011 earthquake, the 2012 derecho, and most significantly, a call for medical assistance involving his own mother. And whereas Mr. Johnson assisted in the implementation of the county's first computer-assisted dispatch system, CAD, in 1990, was assigned CAD administrator and built the next system himself in 1996, assisted in the implementation of emergency medical dispatch in 2006, which allows dispatchers to provide medical instructions for emergencies such as CPR and childbirth, and assisted in the implementation of the state-of-the-art P25 digital radio system in 2017, which greatly enhanced the regional radio system. And whereas Mr. Johnson has helped guide the growth of the E911 call center from just one dispatcher per shift using paper maps to the technologically advanced and efficient call system in place today. And whereas Mr. Johnson has, in his unwavering dedication, been an asset to this county and to the citizens he has served. And whereas Mr. Johnson will retire on July 31st, 2020, after 32 years of service to Bedford. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors hereby express their sincere thanks and heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Jeff A. Johnson for his dedication to Bedford County to public service, and wish him a long, happy, and healthy retirement. I'm not going to open it any further. He gets a nice watch. Thank you.
Pose for us for a second, too.
Get out of the way. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next, we have item 8E, public hearing, consideration of a resolution to approve special use permit SU 20-005 for the expansion of an aviation facility, general use on parcels identified as tax map 24381-2-A, 243A1-2-G, 243A1-2-H, and 243A1-2-E1 for the purpose of expanding a pre-existing non-conforming aviation facility for general use above 50%. This is for the Smith Mountain Lake Airport. All right, first we'll hear from staff. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jordan Mitchell. I'm the Interim Director for Community Development, and I'll be presenting special use permit application SU 20-0005. The applicant and owner of this proposed project is Smith Mountain Lake Airport LLC. I think you just went over the tax note numbers. I won't repeat that information. But the properties are located at 1090 Cutlass Road. The approximate size of all those tax map parcels is 30.36 acres total. The existing zoning of the site is R1, low density residential, with the AO airport overlay and WHP, which is the wellhead protection overlay district as well. This proposed use is a greater than 50% expansion in the non-conforming aviation facility general use at the airport. They're proposing to add 5 1,760 square foot hangars, 1 3,780 square foot hangar, 1 2,880 square foot hangar, and a 2,000 square foot terminal building. This is located in election district number 2. Here's a location map showing the properties that make up the airport, located on Buccaneer Road as well as Cutlass. Also at the 40-acre subdivision at the end. Zoning map shows everything around the airport to be zoned R1, which is low density residential district. Here's the overlay map. You see the airport overlay is over top of the property. It does overlap with the wellhead protection. You have the PO district, which is the park overlay. Future land use map of the site shows the property to be for residential use. You do have agricultural natural resource stewardship to the north and south there. And here's an aerial photograph of the site. This was taken in 2018. Looks much the same today as it does then. And here is the concept plan. You'll see this portion here shows the proposed hangars. Oh, sorry. Also, the terminal building is also located on this one as well. And here is the hangar additions at the south end of the runway. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this application on June 16, 2020. We had a very large turnout of citizens that spoke for and against the application. You know, the information was provided in your packet as to what the general concerns were around the airport, as well as the emailed comments that were being sent to me for the Planning Commission as well as for the board meeting tonight. And the Planning Commission recommended approval of that by a 7-0 vote, and they recommend this condition here with that approval, and that is the construction traffic shall be limited to the paved portion of Cutlass Road only through Buccaneer Road. Any questions I can answer for this application from a planning perspective?
Any questions for staff? Okay.
Does this fall within the guidelines of land use and zoning?
Yes, so this is a non-conforming airport that was established before Lugs, so therefore they have the ability to expand beyond 50%. They had already gotten the site plan approval to expand up to the by right 50%, so this process is necessary for them to be able to go beyond that.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we'll hear from the applicant or the representative for the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Mo Bazazan. I'm the general manager for Smith Mountain Lake Airport. And while Jordan brings this up.
Switch to something else.
I'll switch. Next slide. These are the topics I'll be covering. Some general information about the airport that some of it was already covered by Jordan. The proposed plan, the road and air traffic impact from building all these buildings that was mentioned, noise and other topics of interest. The property entirety is 41 acres. There's an additional 10 acre behind on the approach end of the runway 23. We'll show that to you. The frontage on the Cutlass Road on the northeast end is about 550 feet. And there are 3 access points. We are using 2 of the 3 access points. One of them is basically for vehicle traffic coming in for the customers of the airport, and the other one is for the hangar access that people come in that we just recently built, which is right off the Buccaneer Road. It's no more than 20 feet on the gravel road, and they enter in the airport area. You'll see that later on. And also, the length of the Cutlass Road itself is about 4,200 feet, which is of concern of some folks that there's going to be traffic on the gravel road, which is not going to be any at all in this case. This is the area where, this is again used the same 2018. You can see where the T hangars are, the long building right there. And the building that has already been built is next to that smaller hangar, right at the bottom of that T hangars that are there. We have already built right somewhere there. We have built the building already, and that building is up, was the one that was mentioned by Jordan, 50% used expansion. The addition of that building and plus a terminal building is going to go on this end of the airport. Next. Our immediate plan is actually building a 63 by 60 for an airplane that already comes and goes into the airport. This airport, as a matter of fact, it was sitting on a ramp today. The folks that own the airport, the airplane, they have a house right down the road on Airport Road, and that's an easy way for them to get back and forth to their main residence. And it's going to be, this building is going to be located on the southwest corner, and as I mentioned, the traffic from addition of this building is when this gentleman comes and goes, which is maybe once or twice a week. In the summertime and the wintertime, probably very rarely, just like everybody else. Next. And that's the location of hangars in the blue, as you can see, with the pavement in front of it, accessing the runway. And the long stripe that you see right there is the access from the, actually is, that corner is Buccaneer and Cutlass Road intersection. As they turn into the Buccaneer, make a right and a right, and they will access the hangar. Next one. Future plan is I have 20 people on a wait list for getting the hangar. And in addition to that, I'm getting calls, people that want to move into the area and do purchase property, etc. So these folks are, we have a definite need. We're not building these. And then this future plan, which somewhere around 3 years or so, 3 to 5 years, is build a 544 by 40 hangars just to the west of that building that I just showed you. None of these hangars have living spaces. They don't have any running water. There's nothing. It's just basically 4 walls for storage of airplane. That's what they're for. And the road traffic assessment, I've been living on the airport. I retired in 2017. I've been living on the airport for the last 3 years. I watch people come and go on a daily basis. The people that rent the hangars from me today average between 1 to 4 times a month. They come, they get in the airplane, they go somewhere, a few days later they may return, or longer. They return and go home. If you add those hangars from this 5 hangars, you have 5 more cars, 5 more airplanes. And if these people, let's take it to the maximum, use the airplane 4 times a month, that's 20 trips up and down Buccaneer Road, which is a private road, a month. So 20 trips a month. I don't think that's a congestion in traffic. It's not going to be every day, rush hour, whatever. These people are coming in to go somewhere on a trip or just take a flight somewhere. So the air traffic is the same way as the road traffic. 95+% of the traffic at the airport is by people who come visit and also by flight training. We do have a flight school on the airport, and these folks are busy teaching the next generation of the pilots that fly you from place to place. We've already produced more than half a dozen professional pilots that are working for the airlines. Next. And that's the location of those hangars, as I mentioned. It's shown in green, and same access will be used for those hangars. Next one. Right next to the 3 hangars that was just built, we're going to extend that 1 more. Again, all of these hangars are for the people that are on the wait list, that are looking for a space to put their airplane. Some gentleman just moved from Texas to here, bought a house on the lake, and his airplane is on a ramp. He says he would like to keep it here, but if not, he's going to take it to Martinsville. So those are the options. again, there are more people like him, that they want to move to the area, and they want to keep their planes at the lake next to, you don't want to travel hour and a half to get to an airport, to get in the airplane. The whole idea behind flying somewhere is get as close as possible in general aviation, as possible to your destination. Again, this hangar is 2,880 square feet, and based on the data that I've shown you, you're going to have 1 to 4 trips a month for this hangar. And the one that I've already used in those hangars along the same way, one guy's airplane is in Detroit. He comes maybe once a month and flies back and forth. He's got a warplane, and he goes does air shows and does other things. And that's the kind of traffic we're going to be experiencing by adding these buildings. There are total 7 hangars, and the air traffic and road traffic is practically, in my opinion, is negligible based on the data I have shown. Next one. And that's where the blue one is already, the hangar is already built. This is from 2018 aerial. The extension of that is the one in the green that I show you. And then right to the, I guess to the bottom of that, bottom left is another building that is shown is 2,000 square feet. The building that we have right now for the office, etc., it's, it's 30 years old, it's 30 plus, probably 40 years old, it's outdated, and we just like to have a nice facility for the people that are traveling to come in, they want to use the facility, go to the bathroom, etc., and be able to sit there and do flight planning, and check the weather, etc., or wait for somebody to get picked up for that kind of activity. And that's what that is. What we call a terminal building. Next one. That's a terminal building. That's what it's called. A building that you go into from your airplane into the building is called terminal building. But we don't have none of these scheduled flights. We don't have any airlines. We don't have any charter operation. No jet. Just limited by the size of the runway. And no baggage claim, no TSA, customs, whatever you want to call it. There is none of the stuff that you see in your big airplanes. Next one. And this is the summary of all the hangars. After everything is built, 7 to 10 additional airplane, based on the 1 to 4, you're looking at 7 to 40 trips per month. I mean, this is somewhere around a trip a day, if you want to average it out per month. And as I mentioned, 95% of the airport operation are done by our facility, actually. And as I mentioned earlier, the traffic from all these hangars after being built and hangars occupied, it's minimal. The noise level, the airport length is 3,058 feet. The runway length determines what kind of airplane can come in and out of the facility. We cannot have any jet operation. I understand the New London folks were here. They're afraid of jet operation. Our airport cannot handle that. Most of our traffic, about 99% plus, is basically piston engine aircraft, single engine or multi-engine. The piston engine, they develop somewhere around 78 decibel. This is according to the engine manufacturers. And we have a turboprop. It's a larger airplane on the field. That airplane, according to the manufacturer, it generates 72 decibel. It's actually, even though it's bigger and it has a turboprop engine, it's actually quieter operation from coming and going and taking off. From a safety, obviously all of the hangars are, whoever rents a hangar, they're required to have insurance, etc. Insurance company determine who can fly what. I mean, their standard is much more stringent than the FAA. I mean, FAA can say, okay, you need 5 hours in certain type of airplane. Insurance company is going to come say, no, you need 35 hours. And their standard is much higher because they have lived through the years. They have learned that early in the learning, make most of the mistakes in those areas. So they want you to get plenty of experience under your belt, and they give you a better rate. So it becomes cost prohibitive to actually insure an airplane having low amount of time. Aircraft safety itself is rigorous. Every year goes through an annual inspection. Has to be a certified mechanic that signs off the airplane. They check everything from soup to nuts, from the beginning, from the propeller to the tail of the airplane. And airplanes, knock on wood, that fly in and out of airplane that belongs to the flight school or are resident at the airport, we have had no accident. We have had 3 accidents. Two of them was on the field, one was off the field. The gentleman that came in was too high, and he tried to go around, his pilot error. The other 2 incidents, also sort of pilot error, loss of control of the aircraft on the ground. Nobody got, in the 2 on the airport, nobody got injured. The one on the off of the airport, the gentleman had body burn in good part of his body. This is my experience since owning being in charge of the airport. In Cutlass Road, we expand the front end of the Cutlass Road, the first access, as I mentioned. We spent $2,500 to allow for any kind of a delivery, whether it's construction, whether it's fuel delivery. It will come right through the very first entrance, which is about 25 feet from Buccaneer Road. And that area has been expanded, allows for turnaround for all of those vehicles. And there are 2 pictures, go to the next one. You can see that area where it's circled, that's the area where we made an improvement. The next picture will show the expansion of the gravel and allow it to make an easy turn in and out of. And you can see the Buccaneer Road to the right is the road, and you come into Cutlass and immediately you come on the airport road. In 2017, when I was paving in a section of the airport, took the first 700 feet of Cutlass Road, put 88 tons of gravel, tried to maintain it, graded it, compacted with one of these vibrating machines, etc. And been trying to maintain the last, in 18 and 19, maintain the road, fill in potholes, and we have had some unusual rain amount in the last couple of years at the lake, and it has caused a lot of erosion. The gravel road it's hard to maintain when you have running water coming down through it, and it's underwater actually in some places. Some piece of information I found interesting I want to share with you guys is the properties on that Jordan showed you off of the Buccaneer Road. When I looked at the Google map, they showed about 102 properties that something is on there, whether it's a motorhome, whether it's a house built on it, etc., or hangars. The median ownership is 2011 from those properties. And the longest, according to the GIS information, the longest that someone has owned a property off of Buccaneer or Cutlass or any of those 40 acres subdivision is 1992. And the airport was established in 1962. Let's go to the next slide. This is a picture taken right after the airport was paved. As you can see, there is very little to no development around the airport. So I understand people are going to be concerned about noise, safety, whatever it is they're afraid of, that a risk at the airport can produce a risk. This airport has been here since 1962. And if you come and build right next to an airport, you're accepting those risks, in my opinion. And I think the road that was established there, it was mainly, I think, for this area, for accessing the airport, the private road itself. So those are some of the considerations that also I would ask you to consider. This area, I think back in sometime in the early 80s, was subdivided and created air park. An air park is a place where people have their own private hangars on a private property, but they have access onto the runway, and that's what you have today. We have 11 residents, of which 10 of them have hangars, and only one of the residents, I believe, is a non-pilot. The rest of them are pilots. Some of them are sitting here and behind me. And that's people wanting to come. People, if you want to live next to an aviation community, that's where you go. You go to an airport. They are very common in Florida. I don't know if there are that much of them here in Virginia, but this is one. It's an airport. I did not buy the airport to become rich. These are my finances. If you guys wanted to get a copy of Schedule C, which is the airport finances, I can provide them to you. And you can see that these numbers are to the last dollar. The airport main revenue, main source of revenue, you go to the next slide, is hangar rent. Our fuel is priced where the people on the airport, also the flying community, be able to go fly. I mean, you can price them like Roanoke or some of the other places, $6, $7 a gallon. People won't be able to afford to fly. I mean, it's expensive. So we price it at break-even cost, or I do. So the source of income for the revenue for the airport is basically hangar rent. The airport does provide a convenient place for people who have a second home. They live in DC or they live in North Carolina or Tennessee. There are quite a number of folks that fly every weekend, and that's what they use. They use the airport as a means getting from where they are to here. I have a gentleman that actually works in the Pentagon that he flies back and forth from DC area. We have hangar homes. Some of the folks that have, in the front is a hangar, in the back of the hangar is their home. There's demand for the hangar. As I mentioned, we have over 20 people on the list. And the road traffic, as I mentioned, is, in all honesty, is negligible. Whether I build the hangars, these people are already here. That's the fact. They're going to be coming and going. Whether I build the hangar or not, it's not going to impact the road or the air traffic. And when I built the hangars in last year, and I don't think that there was one single call to the county at the office to complain about something going wrong. I took care of everything, as I said, everything just came on airport property first, and all the construction was done with care, not to disturb any residents that on Cutlass Road. And we're active in the community. We do fundraising activity for Split Mountain Lake Christian Academy. We do Wounded Warrior Luncheon. We do a monthly cookout. Next one is next Friday, this coming Friday, for the residents and people who fly to our public that are flying in. And also we sponsor high school kids for a solo camp. We had one this past week. We sponsor them so that people that don't have the opportunity to cover the cost of learning how to fly, it gives them a taste whether or not this is something they want to pursue in the future. General aviation is a dying breed. If it wasn't people for myself and some of the people that you're going to see here, it's a sacrifice. In the last 3 years that I've retired, I worked hardest than ever in my entire life. 7 days a week. I mean, nonstop. And I haven't taken a dime. You don't go do that kind of stuff because you hate the thing. You do it because you have a passion for something, you love something, you like it to see succeed. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Trying to make the airport where it doesn't require so much effort in my resources because I'm retired. I can't really afford to do that kind of an investment or do anything. If I have to go in and repair, for example, the asphalt on a runway, you can imagine 3,000 foot by 50, what that costs to resurface that stuff. So those are the kind of things that additional hangars will help us accomplish and maintain the facility to a high standard. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer.
I gotta ask you something.
And just looking at the losses, I mean, it's not my business perhaps, but where are you coming up with the dough to expand that?
I was working.
Yeah.
I was working.
Yeah.
I had, I treated the airport like one of my kids. I put 2 kids through college. One of them went to UVA, out of state tuition. I'm not gonna tell you how much it cost, but it's just similar to those numbers that I saw. So I treat it like another kid. And it is my kid. It's the 3rd child I never had.
You got a lot of faith in that thing.
I mean, there is something about aviation. If you've been, it's worse than coronavirus. And the reason I say that is, I have people come, they strap a fan, a motorized fan in the back, they got a parachute, and they take a running jump and they go up and fly around. I mean, if you're willing to take that kind of a risk for yourself, I mean, obviously he's trained, or they get their license to do that kind of stuff. I have people just came last week from North Carolina. They bought a motorhome, stayed at the state park, and they dropped the trailer off at the airport. They took out a trike with a parachute, and they come up, gentleman and his wife, I think they were from Ireland or someplace, took off and they toured around the lake and came back and flew a couple of days, and they went back to their place. That's the kind of opportunity, those are the kind of things people do. People spend countless hours building their own airplane. We have some of the folks right here that have built at least several airplanes. Jack is going to come, I believe, and speak. I mean, you don't spend that kind of hours, that kind of a time, because you hate something. It's a passion. Like I said, either you have it or you don't. My intention here is to make sure general aviation, or this airport specifically, has a chance to survive.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, now I'll open up the public hearing. I've got a number of people signed up to speak. I'm just going to call you one by one, and then at the end, if I haven't called on you, please, I'll give you an opportunity to come speak. The first one is Gary Tuck. I'm trying to it's pretty thick. I'm trying to keep it limited to about 3 minutes.
I'll do my best. Okay, Gary Tuck. First off, I wanted to present a little bit of a revision to the history lesson we just got there. Might not be quite as material, but I got that aviation bug referred to 55 years ago at Smith Mountain Airport. It was a grass strip built by Tom Graves back in that time frame, and I was 12 years old. My father put me in the co-pilot seat of Bill Saker's twin-engine Apache he brought down and would give air pads over it. I fell in love with flying then, and to this day I still love flying. Fast forward 5 years later, 1970, I was 17 years old. By that time, the airport had been paved. Tom Graves was still the owner, but Darrell White had taken over as a fixed-base operator and was trying to start a flight school. First airplane in, brought a flight instructor in from Lynchburg. I took my first flying lesson there, again, 50 years ago in June, and then by August, I soloed. I was the first student pilot to ever solo at Smith Mountain Airport. My shirt was cut off the back, hung in the flight school inn, which was just a trailer, and it hung there for many years, and a lot more shirts got added as it went on. So, but fast forward again, 5 more years later, I'm graduating from college. I'm a private pilot by this time. The airport had been changed. The ownership had changed to Smith Mountain Real Estate Trust under Gloria Parks and Melvin Johnson, and they had owned the airport. And I came out of college wanting to buy some lake property because my other love was not flying, but was also Smith Mountain Lake. So I was interested in some property. They had also purchased off the end of the runway approximately 40 acres, which later became known as the 40 acres. So they showed me that. They had just extended what is now Buccaneer Road to go around the south side of the airport and connect to the 40-acre subdivision. So I bought a lot in there. It wasn't even gravel. It was all mud at that time. So I continued on. It's been active some time. But I was, by the way, like I said, 1992 was the oldest. I bought my property in 1975. So been around probably longer than most people here. And I spent the next 30 years flying in and out as I could, as I was out of state, sometimes out of country. For medical reasons, I no longer fly, but I wish I could, and I still appreciate it. I have felt utmost respect and would love to see evolution continue in whatever control field that makes the most sense here. So, but I moved here permanently in 2010, and I watched planes take off and land over my airport, including the big one. And I'll have to admit, it's quieter than many of the piston planes that go in and out of there. Other issues of safety having to do with large planes and such, beyond my purview. I'm not qualified to comment on that. So I'm not going to. But I will say that the homeowners association, which I'm a part of, was required when it was originally set up by Mel Johnson to establish a fund and collect dues to maintain all of the common property, including the roads inside the 40 acres. Now, the Buccaneer Road coming in, privately owned, there's no one required to pay for it. The airport isn't. None of the other property owners around it is. Neither are the members of the 40 acres. That is a volunteer. So on a volunteer basis, we obviously have a vested need. We also have a vested need in that to keep that maintained, and we do it on a volunteer basis. We get about a 95% participation from us. We get a much less participation by the Pirates Cove people. As of right now, to my knowledge, we have gotten no participation from the businesses along the airport. There were several references to protecting Cutlass Road, 25 feet, and then you got a paved runway, come down. That was paid for by us. It's being maintained by us. There may not be a legal recourse, but I'd like for us to all work together as a community and on some sort of an agreement where we can go forward, and let's all be happy with the airport. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next have Will Tops, maybe?
Your phone.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity to just take a couple of minutes. I started coming to the lake about 30 years ago. Fell in love with it immediately. Started traveling back and forth every vacation I possibly could. We got very fortunate about 8 years ago to be able to buy a house to spend the rest of our life here. The joke is they're going to drag me out of here in a body bag. That's the only way I'm leaving. But one of the major reasons I did that was because of the Smith Mountain Lake Airport. I could get here. We lived up in Connecticut and New York for a lot of that time. I will say that up until about, and let me back up 1 second, what I did for a living was a professional pilot. So I have run flight departments for 47 years and I just retired. One of the big things you guys should take a look at, which I think is very apparent, is who owns the airport, how do they maintain it, what do they do with their community relations. That makes a big, big difference. And I've operated at airports that were run poorly, and I've operated at airports that have been run very well. This is one of the best run airports that I have worked with in 47 years. Up until about 5 years ago, before Mo took over, quite honestly, it had fallen into a little bit of disrepair. What he's done with it in the last 5 years has been incredible. The give back to the community is wonderful, from humanitarian flights to Young Eagles, introducing our young people to aviation. I'll give you another example of how good it is not only have I moved here and I keep my airplane at the airport also, but we've now had 2 friends move into the community to a large extent because of the airport and the ability to get back and forth. That helps the tax base. 2 of them moved into Bedford, 1 of them moved into Franklin, but we'll let them have that money. So anyway, what I would encourage you to do is to consider what has Mo done to the airport out there. You can consider that will happen in the future. It's a good neighbor. The entire airport operates that way because Mo demands it that way, we understand the privilege that we have to operate from that airport, and we know that we need to give back and make sure that it's considered to be a good thing for the community. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Tom Duncan.
Good evening. My name's Tom Duncan. I'm a pilot. I'm a property owner on Cutlass Road, and I have a hangar that I built approximately 10 years ago. The previous owner of the airport, I don't say anything really bad, but did very little to improve things for the airport there at Smith Mountain. Since the new owner has come in, Mo, he has significantly improved every aspect, and I mean every aspect of that airport. Like I said, I've been there for 10 years. Hopefully I'll be there another 10 years. But I would hope that y'all would approve the master plan the way it's proposed, because it's not only good for the airport, it's good for Bedford County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Robert Hartman.
Thank you. My name is Robert Hartman. Years ago, I sat on the same seat that you're sitting on the Board of Supervisors, and I know what you go through on a weekly, monthly basis. I took my first flight at Smith Mountain Lake when I sat on the board. I was invited to come out and take a flight and look at the lake and look at Bedford County from the air. And I advise each one of you to come out and take a look, because it's a completely different view from the air at a low altitude than it is from the road. And if you'll let me know, I'll be happy to take you for a flight. And I'm sure any of the other pilots here will as well. But when I first came to the airport as a pilot, I rented a hangar. And the hangars were in such sorry shape, you got about as much water on the airplane inside the hangar as you did out of the hangar. So I decided to build a hangar. So I bought a lot, built a hangar on the airport, so my airplane would be safe, because it's not really good for airplanes to sit outside all the time. And after Mo came, the runway was improved, the lights were brought back to work, the hangars were repaired. You could actually open the doors without breaking your back, and you couldn't see the sky from inside. He put new roofs on them. He's built new hangars. He's cleaned up the HBO, the area where pilots work out of. The flight school is active. And in a few years, if the economy comes back, and when it comes back, we're going to have a tremendous shortage of pilots. So we really, really need the flight schools to produce pilots. And I urge you to approve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, I have Jack Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Jack Phillips. I am a pilot and fly out of Smith Mountain Lake Airport, but I also happen to be the vice chairman of the board for the Smith Mountain Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm here tonight to give the Chamber's endorsement of the Smith Mountain Lake Airport's expansion plans. The Chamber of Commerce is dedicated to promoting tourism and growing business for its members and the community. This proposed expansion fits perfectly in the Chamber's mission. The SML Airport is a gateway to the lake community just as much as the highways and waterways. So anything we can do to promote growth at the airport will pay dividends in tourism and economic growth for the lake and for Bedford County. Many pilots have come to this airport not expecting to become homeowners, but after visiting the lake and enjoying the facilities at the airport, they have decided to invest in real estate at the lake, and usually in Bedford County, since they want to be close to their airplanes, and Franklin County doesn't have an airport. One of the key things they are looking for is hangar space. This proposal to expand the airport's hangar capacity will be very important in making this area attractive to visiting pilots. Therefore, as a representative of the Smith Mountain Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce, I offer this endorsement and ask the Bedford County Board of Supervisors to grant this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Next, I have Don Orr. H-O-A-R?
Yeah, you got it right.
This has to come off. I promise I won't spit on you. I like to inhale when I talk. I'm Don Hoare, live at 1167 Lakeside Circle. I'm basically the extension of the southern end of the runway. If you were to come off that thing and not be able to clear the trees, you're likely going to be in my yard. Which happened not too, 3 years ago. Someone landed right there in the street. That's the one where the guy got burned and everything. So when we talk about safety and stuff like that, not real impressed. I'm not real impressed with the insurance requirements and all that. Airplanes still come down. They come down in neighborhoods. I don't know if you all watched the news. Utah, Saturday. Airplane came down in a neighborhood. Killed the pilot, killed 2 people in a house. Okay? I'm going to be one of those statistics if something comes down towards my yard, me or my family. I'm not impressed with the figures that say the 17 to 20 planes that we're expecting to, inhabit these hangars are not going to increase the traffic. Baloney. You put 20 more garages on your street, and you tell me how many cars are going to be running up and down that street. Okay? He paints this thing. It's a almost $1.5 million Bedford County valued property. It's nonprofit. Sounds like nonprofit. It's not going to make a profit. Well, there's going to be more traffic. Don't tell me there's not going to be more traffic with all these other airplanes there. That means noise. Also, the roads. As Gary was saying, we pay for the roads out there, Buccaneer Road. Not required, but we do because we have to travel that road. We spent $12,000 last year in the spring to repave Buccaneer Road. I'm sorry, patch Buccaneer Road. It's a quilt. You come down here and look at that road, you see a quilt. 90 to 95% of that quilt is from Airport Road to Cutlass, where you turn into the airport. Beyond there, there's more, but as soon as you reach 40 acres, there's no patchwork. We haven't had to do any work down in there. It's all the traffic coming in. Now, we've been talking possibly VDOT could possibly get involved in this, and if so, great. If not, I think the commercial businesses that are on this road, as well as people that live along Buccaneer, but especially the commercial businesses that are there to make money, should kick into the same pot that we're paying. Okay? The last meeting we had here a month ago for that planning commission, the manager sat here and said, quote, "Why should I contribute to paying for Buccaneer Road when the people in those expensive houses down in 40 acres pay for that?" Excuse me. This whole operation looks like boys and their toys. Everybody that's spoken in favor of this airport is either for economic development or we play with airplanes and we need a place to do that. I live at the end of this thing. Okay? I've been coming down here since '95 when my parents had the house. 3 years ago, I took the house over. We didn't have the traffic that you're going to be talking about. We've got more traffic now than we've had in the past, but it's getting worse and worse. And it's becoming a miserable place to be on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon. I'm concerned about safety, as well as the noise, as well as the traffic. Something does happen. How fast is somebody going to come grab me and my wife and my dogs out of my burning house? We got a volunteer fire department. We got any fire equipment close to us? No? Thanks.
Thank you.
Sharon Reynolds. Yeah, from the check. Dan Dunkel. I was about to try that.
Sorry. So my name's Dan Dunkel. I live on Sunset Point at the bottom of Airport Road. I'm the one who has the big plane that the first hangar is being built for. Just not going to talk a lot about safety because that's really not what I'm here to talk about, but just to let you know, I'm probably one of the only pilots on the airport that requires recurrent training. I have to go to simulated training every year because of the plane I fly. I had to go to initial training down in Florida because of the plane I fly. That plane is safer and I can land it shorter than any other piston plane that I've flown into Smith Mountain Lake. So even though it's bigger and quieter, it actually lands on a shorter runway than any other piston that I've flown into Smith Mountain Lake. So from a safety perspective, that plane is safer than anything else I've flown. One of the things I want to talk about, the biggest thing, is the community, because we've talked a little bit about it, but what Mo has built, I mean, you can pave a runway, you can make the airport look nice and everything, but if you don't have a community and people don't come up to it, then it really doesn't do much good. I'll give you an example. I'm an Angel flight pilot, which flies veterans or sick people for medical treatments. I had to pick up a cancer patient on last Monday who was dying to go back to Clarksburg, West Virginia. I came up to the airport to talk to a couple pilots to see if anybody would fly with me, because I wanted somebody to fly with me. Jason, the owner of the flight school, jumped in the right seat with me. We flew to Houston, Texas, took a cancer patient home on Monday. Unfortunately, the gentleman passed away on Thursday, but he got to see his family. Talk about community. The only reason that happened was because of like the cookouts Mo does every month, where we all get together, we all are, become friends, we talk to each other, we learn about things. The airport community is one of the greatest places that I've ever been to. I think that's really important. The other thing too, and I think it was mentioned, but Mo being the owner, every time I land there, he's one of the first people I see. Comes out, makes sure everything's okay, how are things going, asks you questions. That, to me, he cares about the airport. He wants the airport to grow. I used to own a hangar on Cutlass Road, and I just sold that in May or June. We settled. The person that bought my hangar just got a contract for over $1 million house on the lake in Bedford County. The only reason he's here is because of the airport. It's the only reason I'm here too, right? I come in, my wife and kids live here in the summer. My girls worked at Portside. They work at the wakeboard shop. I would fly in every weekend to see them because I got to work up in Northern Virginia during the week. That airport is what drove us here to Smith Mountain Lake. The only thing that's imminent right now is the hangar for my plane. If anybody has a nice car, you want to keep your car in the garage, it keeps the paint nice and stuff. That's the big thing for me too. I mean, it is an asset that I would like to keep there. It's coming here whether the hangar is approved or not, because I show up all the time. No traffic is going to reduce because of that hangar being built or not. I'm going to be here every weekend. Obviously I'm for it, but I want you to think about the community, and as the community grows, then Bedford County grows too with it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Cecil, I think it's Brewer.
Cecil?
Yes.
Excuse my handwriting. I had eye surgery last month, and I haven't got my prescriptions worked out just
Not a
yet, but
problem.
I'm working on it.
What was the last name?
Brewer.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. I am Cecil Brewer, and I built my dream retirement home on the runway frontage at Smith Mountain Lake Airport. When I retired from American Eagle Airlines, who I worked for 26 years and 9 months, I earned my FAA licenses. I am a licensed airframe and power plant mechanic. I've worked on 5 different turboprop airplanes, 4 pure jet airplanes over the years. I've been run taxi qualified in 3 of the different Embraers, the 135, 140, 145. That means I had the authority to go out to the flight line with a right-seater, start the airplane up, both engines, and drive it around the airport to do maintenance, required maintenance, like thrust sets, aileron checks, brake checks, everything. I worked for American Eagle for 26 years, 9 months, got my licenses, and I could take an airplane out of service on my authority if it was not safe, because the only job I had at Eagle was to safely repair the airplanes the passengers flew in. And I could sign it off as good to go or not to go on my judgment alone. And that is an awesome responsibility when there's 50 people sitting in the back of that airplane trusting their lives to somebody they don't know. And I still feel that way about it. No airplane ever left my hands that was not safe to fly. And I still do that today on my plane, which I just sold, and some other friends of mine airplane. Smith Mountain Lake is my dream retirement home. Every morning I wake up, I'm living my dream, and I love it. I'd do anything for Mo or any of the other pilots on the airport. They borrow equipment, we work back and forth, we do these things together as a community, and it's great. There's one thing you gotta know about a pilot. As soon as you get your private pilot's license, you buy an airplane. And as soon as you buy an airplane, you look for a hangar space. And hangar space is virtually non-available right now. I think Lynchburg's full. I think Smith Mountain is full. I know Smith Mountain's full. And I think there's a couple of hangars left in Martinsville. If you're a private pilot and own an airplane, you want a hangar. And that is an insatiable demand that will never die. If we build these 5 more hangars, it's not going to impact anything in any way because it just doesn't fly that much. But Bedford County will benefit because of taxes, maintenance, and other things like real estate. Real estate, like it's been brought up, has benefited greatly because the airport is there and it's so well run. And I love it, and I tremendously, enthusiastically support the special use permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a timer? Man, that was on cue. Jason Reef?
Hi, my name is Jason Greif. I own the flight school at Smith Mountain Lake Airport. I started in aviation in 1974. I've been a Southwest Airlines pilot for the last 26 and a half years. I just retired. I run a flight school for 22 years, and I currently still do. Seaplanes are fun, and doing business at Smith Mountain Lake Aviation. I've been a check airman, a certified flight instructor, CFI, II, MEI for many, many, many years, 15, 20 years, something like that. And I can tell you unequivocally, the best person I've ever worked with running an airport has been Mo. And I'm not going to reiterate what everyone else is saying, but I'm going to talk about safety. I will not allow any of my airplanes to go out unsafe. And I understand the concerns of people here, but I run my ship at this flight school just as well as Mo runs this airport. But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Kidd?
Hello everyone, thanks for letting me have the opportunity to speak with you. I am Matt Kidd. I purchased what I call my dream home at the age of 28, lifelong Bedford County resident, raised by a single mother, worked multiple jobs. Didn't have the opportunity to have boats and stuff. Went with a few friends to Smith Mountain Lake as a kid. Thought it would always be an awesome thing to be able to own property up there. Actually wasn't even looking, but I told my realtor I wanted a financial steal, nearby a body of water, and a new unique property. This was the house that she took me to. I told her she didn't take me to one. That was the last house she took me to. So I purchased it in an additional lot, and I'm right in the middle of Cutlass Road, right on the runway. My house and my additional property are smack in the middle. I probably see the majority of more than any other person on the airport landings and takeoffs because I see smack in the middle of the runway. Few things I'm going to bring up. Certainly, we're talking about public safety. I don't hear a whole lot of that. Yes, there's been some crashes, this and that. Public health, I appreciate that some of you are wearing masks. Great. I know the gentleman mentioned it to you guys. I'm not. You're right. And nobody's going to ask you if you have a health condition because you might. But I see all the people in favor of this at the last hearing. They weren't wearing masks. So good PR stunt. Now they all have their masks on. But just Friday night, we had an airplane come in, not Dan's plane, that this is proposed to be building for. It's a plane just like Dan's. It came directly from Chicago. Who was there to welcome him here? Dan. So it's not Dan's plane. Dan's plane's parked here. The gentleman that he sold the airport, or his hangar, which was directly beside mine, is Scott Kuhn, owns Kuhn Aviation. Go to his website, it says that they have access to 5,000 planes globally. So to say there's going to be a little bit of traffic or this isn't going to be impacted that much is kind of not, I wouldn't say accurate. Also, I'd go ahead and say in May of 2013, I started a business. Bedford County authorized it, Kids Lunch and Launch. I was a mobile food boat. I was told by the county I wasn't allowed to have paid customers come to my property or the community dock that we all share, which is a huge selling point for me and my black lab dog that I got right after my last deployment in the military. And I saw that dog jump off. I said, I'm sold. This is great. County approves my business, but I'm told I cannot utilize this for customers to come to my business because of paid customers. I can go out somewhere and I can go to the water, but I'm not allowed to have paid customers. Several of the gentlemen you just mentioned, Jack, the endorsement from the Vice President Chamber of Commerce, he failed to mention that he is the owner of the bed and breakfast, which I would argue doesn't meet the code due to the square footage and the requirements from adjoining properties. He failed to disclose that he has basically built a hotel with a lot of residents coming down and paying. Jason just mentioned that he owns Smith Mountain Lake Aviation. His website claims they have 9 employees, so that he's definitely making a profit. Jack's making a profit. Certainly Mo's making a profit. You know, I would ask for one additional minute. Oh, you gave this to a handful of other people, and the other thing, just one if you don't mind.
Just
Just 2 years ago, 2 things. One, this is a 50% expansion, LU is a 50% expansion. That's a rezoning issue. We were going to be included with that back in September, and then all of a sudden, the Smith Mountain Lake Airport got pulled from that. Why? The county told me, and members of this office that proposed this said, yes, this is going to be a rezoning issue. We're going to create the airport zone. All of a sudden, I addressed all the private roads to many of the members that we got pulled out. Fast forward 10 months, now we're going to call it a special use permit. It's a 50% increase, just like New London, but because we're private roads, they got to change that. The other concerns certainly are the weight and size of the aircraft. The previous owner and his son are both commercial pilots. One retired from Pan America. The guy's 90-some years old. A lot of people say, you know, he's incompetent. He didn't do a lot of good. Well, the guy's 90 years old when he settled in the airport. He's still operating the damn thing. So, and he's a World War II Purple Heart veteran. That was acknowledged by the Vice President last year here at the D-Day Memorial. So I'd say that. But for me being told that I'm not allowed to operate a business because they're private roads, but then after that, 3 additional businesses have been started, what kind of precedent are you setting for private roads throughout the county of Bedford? And certainly there's been no mention of all of the wildlife that's on that runway, and even Bob Hartman even hit a deer a couple years ago. So, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ron Snow. Someone want to?
There's nobody else out there.
Okay. And Sparrows Casey? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Spiro Casey. Initially, I had planned to come to this hearing to observe. I'm sorry I didn't make the previous hearing, but I didn't want to miss this one. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the plan as proposed by Mo. I've never met Mo. I've never talked with Mo. I've only seen him from a distance, I suppose, across from my property. Of all these gentlemen who spoke tonight in favor of it, the only person I've met is Jack, because I've stayed at his bed and breakfast. Beautiful, very well run. And I'm a native of this region. I've been, property record doesn't reflect how long I've been associated with Pirates Cove. However, we've been coming here for about 30 years. And actually my mother was drawn, if you can believe it, to the airport first, not even the lake. It's a beautiful area of over there near White House. I've seen it since I was a kid come up, and I think what these, I can attest that what these gentlemen have shared with you about the area reflects my own experience. My brother and I have owned multiple properties there in Pirates Cove through the years, and we just can't uproot ourselves and separate ourselves from that area. We like it. We keep coming back. We're frequent visitors throughout the year, all seasons. We did build a home there. It was completed in 2004. We no longer own the home. However, we still own property there. We saw a transformation in Pirates Cove in that area. where there was an improvement, more traffic, it was cleaner. We started seeing that in the mid-2000s, but I can also share with you that coincides with Mo's ownership. The airport appears to be thriving, and that's great. Can't begrudge someone with trying to generate revenue. It's absolutely necessary for the maintenance of the property and the upkeep. And just if someone's going to take the risk of ownership and operation and put in their time and sweat equity, it needs to be offset with revenue. Airplane is a piece of equipment, just like a tractor or any other thing. It's a high dollar piece of equipment, and safety's a crucial part of that. And keeping an airplane in a hangar helps enhance safety and helps maintain that piece of equipment. So I wish Mo the best, and I appreciate your favorable consideration of the application. And again, I'm here to speak in support of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I have no one else signed up to speak. Does anyone else wish to speak?
I'd like to make one more last comment, if I may.
Unfortunately,
I can't ask for the county attorney to be recused due to an issue that's related to these businesses and the community.
again, is public hearing, you had your opportunity. Any other input? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Give the applicant an opportunity to respond as part of the public hearing.
Thank you again for listening to me. In the issue that it was brought up, safety, I'm not going to tell you it's not going to be safe. We will have airplane accidents. History is telling us that. We've had 3 in the last 7 years. So will there be, and in most of these guys really, they don't have a hangar at the Smith Mountain Lake Airport. It's generally the people that come in, it's people that are unfamiliar with the airport. It is a intimidating approach to the airport. That's the best way I can explain it. They got trees on both sides. It's good from one side. It blocks the winds that can push you off the runway, but at the same time, if you're not focused on your runway, you miss it. We have Liberty planes come there fly. Occasionally, they send their students to our airport. In the first couple of rounds, they have to go around. And that's what everybody does pretty much. If they're not familiar, they make an approach, look at the things, and then they move on. So the safety piece, you go on the road, you drive a car, you hit a deer. To me, deers are everywhere. Fortunately, Jack has been helping us. We have a kill permit to reduce the population of deer on the runway, and I think we've been very successful in that. I have not heard about the Bob Hartman issue that was brought up. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. The gentleman that spoke around offering, he said the things that I did not say. The gentleman spoke over there, I forgot his name. I did not say I'm not going to contribute. As a matter of fact, the day after the meeting, I sent the president of the HOA of 40 acres an email explaining to him, I mean, you saw my financials. When they came back a few years back, I said, I'm hemorrhaging money at the door, and then everybody else is holding their hands out and wanting more. So I couldn't do it at that time. Hopefully, I'll be able to meet with the gentleman. We were supposed to meet this past week. He couldn't make it, and come to some kind of a resolution on the road itself. I have not met with him yet. The gentleman's name is Michael Carr. I believe he's the president. And hopefully within the next week or so we can meet and I think I have some of the other folks also that are at the airport are willing to help in regard to the road maintenance. I don't know if there's any other major issue that was brought up here regarding to the permits, etc. For a business on a private property. This is what this hearing is all about. We're trying to get a special permit, special use permit for an activity. If some gentlemen want to do something, they should go through the same process, and I'll be supporting it. I won't go against it. Because if he wants to do something on code, why not? That's how the business, how the community can grow, to be supportive of each other. And that's failure to follow a procedure, county procedure. I should not be held responsible, or nor other businesses that are thriving on the airport, be held responsible for that. I follow the procedure the county has said. This is why we are here. You're listening to me because of that reason. And hopefully, you guys consider a positive motion on this permit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm going to close the public hearing and now open it up to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to, point of personal preference here, just recognize the pilots in the room and thank them. Personally, I have 1,154 skydives, and thanks to competent folks like these guys for taking me up. I never landed with any of them, but I took off with a bunch of them. The landings were on me, but I'd just like to let them know how much I appreciated them. And if they ever open up another skydiving operation over at Smith Mountain Lake, I'll...
You really have that many skydivers?
I did probably about 200 of them at the airport over there.
You're publicly admitting you have that many?
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
No, Mr. Chairman, I've got just an email or two that I wanted to read into the record.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
This first one is from June 17th, and it is from Mo to the president of the Homeowners Association down there, so that we can talk about this road maintenance thing here. It says, thanks for coming out and speaking at the meeting last night. I listened carefully to the points that everyone brought up, and I plan to do what I can in my power in order to have a good solution for everyone. Number one, I am not sure what the Buccaneer Road Maintenance annual contribution is for the property owners at 40 acres. I will be happy to be included in this. Please let me know what the property owner maintenance assessment is and when to send the check. I know you spoke to me once a while back, and I apologize for not responding. Working 7 days a week trying to see how to make the ends meet at the airport. It's been challenging even after 7 years, and I'm still trying to make a go of it. Number two, I heard a few complaints about noise. I think I can help reduce the noise with the following action. FAA allows airport to have a departure procedure to avoid noise generated during takeoff and climb. I will draft a noise abatement procedure and record it with the population density with the FAA. Sorry, my daughter's an FFA. The flight school owner is the AOPA representative and is on board with the changes. The departing air traffic over the 40 acres happens when runway 23 is used for departure. The population density is much lower, a couple of farms, when pilots use runway 05. The noise abatement procedure will call runway 5 use during calm and light winds. Additionally, I will include no departure from 10 o'clock p.m. to 8 a.m. using runway 23. I think this change will be beneficial for the 40 acres community. Please be advised that you are going to hear planes above for landing when pilots are using runway 05. However, the engine is generally at idle or low power and the noise level is substantially less than takeoff or climb. Number three, I've also heard one gentleman mention the area that was cleared last year. I've not been able to burn the other wood piles due to high winds and rain. It will get done, and my plan is to plant grass/hay and maintain it. I am more than happy to listen to the residents of 40 acres. If you like, I can put you on my email list for monthly cookouts. I do know for a fact that he has made attempts, and there was supposed to be a meeting with the president of the Homeowners Association to iron out the road maintenance questions. Another email from June 17th is I have spoken with the gentleman that will be occupying the hangar that is in review, and he said that he would also agree to contribute to the Buccaneer Road Maintenance Fund. He asked me for your contact information, so forth and so on. Anyway, just wanted to share that. We also will be meeting with VDOT to take up the discussion of revenue share to look at Buccaneer coming back into or coming in for the first time to the state road maintenance fund. So that is an ongoing discussion I'm having with JP and Todd Daniel currently. Thanks.
Sir, may I say one thing?
Unfortunately,
This is a good thing.
It doesn't matter if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I've
Given
closed the
those
public
res-
hearing, sir. I would
Given
like
that
to be able
response, I
to.
withdraw my opposition.
Again, I can't take input after I've closed the public hearing. All right. Again, any other discussion?
Can we move to a vote?
I'll entertain one.
Since that's in District 2 and we can, for further discussion, I do move for the adoption of, or approval of special use permit SU 20-0005.
You've heard the motion to approve SU 20-0005 for Mr. Tuck. Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Bainsley? Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next, we have a public hearing, consideration of an ordinance for the addition of new no dogs running at large area. This is ordinance O072720-02. Staff presentation by County Attorney Patrick Scales.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our ordinance allows for subdivisions to vote. I might take a minute while they clear out.
We'll take a 5-minute break.
This is going to be quick. Go ahead.
Right. Our code allows for residents of subdivisions to petition the county to have their subdivisions be considered a no dogs at large area. We did get such a request from the Bayview subdivision. They got 71% of their residents to sign a petition to approve that change. The law requires 70%, so they did meet the threshold. It essentially means that dogs have to be under the control of their owners, otherwise be subject to enforcement by animal control. So that is what is before you this evening.
All right. And our ordinance allows for this. Any questions for staff? All right. Thank you. All right. I'll open it up to the public for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period, and since there's nothing to rebut, I'll open it to the board for discussion and possible action. I'll entertain a motion if there's no discussion.
Who's district?
It's Bayview, it's a party.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt ordinance 0072720-02.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Next, we have a public hearing. Consideration of an ordinance to amend section 1-13A, assessment for courthouse and courtroom security of chapter 1, general provisions, ordinance O072720-03. Staff presentation by County Attorney Patrick Scales.
As of July 1st, counties, localities are authorized to increase their courtroom or courthouse security fee from $10 to a maximum of $20. Our current ordinance sets the fee at $10, and this is assessed against individuals who are convicted of crimes in the various and sundry courts in the county. My understanding is that these funds go directly to courthouse security, so it does lessen pressure on the general fund as the fees are collected. So this is entirely your prerogative to increase that fee. The clerks have asked for the increase. And that is what's before you for consideration tonight.
I have a
Any
question.
questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Scott, actually beat you to it.
Of course, this went into effect July the 1st, and they didn't waste any time asking for this increase. So did they present a need where they showed that this was needed, or they just wanted the money because, you know, we have the right to ask for it?
It's another avenue of a revenue stream, Mr. Scott. Courthouse security in our courthouse, and I won't go into details because we're on the public record, it is an ongoing issue. It has been an ongoing issue.
So it is a need. It's been established as a need.
We've had the General Services Authority from the state come in and do some assessments, and there are still issues over there. Now, how these would be earmarked specifically, I could not answer that question. And again, being in a public forum, there's only so much you want to reveal about deficiencies in security, but I don't know if Sheriff Miller had anything to add to that.
Have there been any cases where security's been breached in the courthouse due to a lack of proper equipment or funds that limit that?
Again, being over there, there are issues with the parking security. And again, I don't want to go into too many details, but.
I don't want to hear that many details.
Sure.
Keep it brief.
I have a question. So the people who are going to be charged the extra fees are criminals and traffic cases in the General District Court, Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court, and the Circuit Court. How many of those people have a history of violent crime who should have to pay for added security?
I couldn't tell you that. I mean, so when you say history of violent crime.
Right, so like if I'm speeding, you're not gonna need more security for me to go to the courthouse. And I would say probably the majority of people that are going there, and am I wrong to say the majority of people who are going there are not violent? And so why should they have to pay more money for added security? That would be my question.
And I couldn't answer that. The fee applies across the board.
Could we charge this to just those who get charged with violent crimes?
That's not with the enabling legislation. It's any conviction of misdemeanor, felony, or traffic offenses.
I see this as just another tax increase coming from Richmond. Richmond had no problem increasing our taxes. And now there's another one that they're just opening the doors for the counties that you want to open up, and that's what it is. A fee is the same thing as a tax increase. If it was for violent offenders, yes, but for anyone who's had a traffic, I just think it's another tax increase. That's my point.
Any other questions for staff?
Did we not have to add additional personnel this past budget season for over there that we absorbed? Did we add some personnel?
Well, what we did, yes. We used it within our, so what we did was this year is we've used our civil department to also supplement our courthouse security. Is what we've ended up doing there. But to answer some of the questions, right now we have 6 empty slots on our camera system that we can add. If my recollection is correct, they're about $2,500 a piece is what it is. We do have some places that we do need those. Right now, our public can park with our judges and all of our employees. We looked at this a couple of years ago, I believe it was, about putting up gates. We even had the U.S. Marshals come down and write an assessment for us. And that still has not been solved or even looked at in the future. It's what it is. So we have our judges and our clerks that are parking with the general public, which is very unsafe for everybody, especially our judges, because someone could be sitting there and waiting for them is what they could do. With this COVID-19, when we went to open back up our courthouse, the sheriff's office furnished them masks. I know now, I believe the housekeeping's doing that, is what they're ending up doing. So we could use some money or this extra $10 to help offset that. Because there's 2 court orders, one from the General District Court, the Supreme Court, and one from our Circuit Court that says that they will wear masks while they're in our courthouse. So we have to furnish them masks, or at least offer them masks. And I know there's some of our judges who, if they don't wear the mask, they postpone the case, is what they end up doing. So there is mandates on that also, is what it is. So we do have those orders that we cannot, we have to enforce, is what we have to do.
Do we have a dollar amount for the gate and the cameras total?
I wish,
Yeah.
but that's been 2 or 3 years ago, and that was done by Sheldon, I believe.
Do we have a dollar amount that we would raise by increasing from 10 to 20? Like what would we get a year?
I did not answer that. But you are correct. If you put in the speeding, then the majority of the people that enter the courthouse is for speeding and traffic violations, is what it is. And there is some other securities that I can't go over in public forum for you all, but I could do it in private session.
These were included in part of the cap. I think some of this was a part of the cap CIP at one time, wasn't it?
It was at one time,
And it was taken out.
apparently.
I remember hearing about the traffic, about the parking
Correct.
garage
Yeah, I don't-
before.
probably-
Was it in the CIP or is that a place where, I don't know that I even,
And
That project's still in the CIP. The prices are old at this point, and we'll probably need to rebid the project. So whether we have enough funds in the CIP to fund that project just due to inflation and so forth, we'll
Yeah.
have to deal with that.
And then the CARES Act funding should cover any PPE.
It will, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions
I
for
don't
staff?
have questions.
All
I
right.
have a comment.
Is it a question? Because we still got to have a public hearing.
Okay.
And then we'll have a board comment.
I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone wishing to speak on this from the public? I'll open this up for public comment. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the board for discussion and possible action. Yes, Mr. Davis, you said you had a comment.
It's been a while since I've had a speeding ticket, but I've had several of them in my life, and I really think it is insult to injury. I appreciate Ms. Bansley's comment about if this wanted to apply to criminals at a much higher level. It certainly adds insult to injury for someone who gets a speeding ticket. And I feel like it's, hey, here's an opportunity to collect money from people that weren't paying attention to their speedometer, and suddenly they're in court. And I'm not in favor of this. I certainly appreciate and respect our law enforcement officials and our judges and their need for security and protection. But to my knowledge, there's not been any attacks on our judges here recently or in the past.
Well,
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
I'd just like to say that the people getting speeding tickets need the additional security just as well as the judges and the other attorneys, so I'm in support of this.
All right. Any other comments?
I'll just make one.
Yes.
In this particular case, I consider it to be a user fee for those that have done the infractions. And we've got to provide the security whether they pay $10 or $20. And I'd rather that the other taxpaying citizens of our county not be responsible for the ones that did the infraction. So I would support the increase.
All right,
Mr. Chair.
comment.
Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
you beat Mr. Scott to it, and then
Sorry.
Mr. Scott.
I really concur. Luckily, I don't have to go in front of a judge and things, but, you know, if I violate the law and I get a ticket, I know I'm gonna have to pay a fee, and court costs and things that go with it. I think that's what you have to do. So I'm not opposed to that, because I think it's unfair for the average tax-paying citizen who's not violating and not having to go to court and go in front of the judge to have to, you know, support extra security or needed security or updated security. So I would be in favor of it.
Mr. Scott?
I was just gonna say, I don't think, from what I'm hearing from our sheriff, I don't think this is gonna cover what they need. I mean, and I remember us bringing this up in the CIP. I don't remember how it got dropped. I don't know where it went from there.
I don't think it has a
Stated recommendation.
So that, to me, this is a bigger issue than a $10 increase in a fine. And we should, if there is a security issue over there, it needs to be brought forward in such a way that we can take care of it rather than depend on a $10 fee from somebody. I don't know, they couldn't give figures and stuff. I don't know how long it would take if they did $10 fees and you did the parking lot and gates and all that stuff. It might take 10 years to come up with the money to do it. So I'm not in favor of this, but I am in favor of us getting it back on the table to take care of the security situation and look at it in a bigger light rather than just a $10 fee. I always think of things like this, that I agree with what Tammy said over there, that if they're breaking the law, they pay the fine and all that, but lots of times people that get penalized, and they shouldn't be out speeding and all that, but they're the ones who can't afford it. And then the guy that can't afford it, he doesn't care whether it's a $10 fee or a $30 fee. So, you know, it's like taking a person's driver's license away from them if they hadn't committed something terrible, you know, like if they didn't pay something, they take their driver's license, and then they can't get to work and back and forth to work, so they're in worse shape than they were. You know, you do more damage than what you do if you try to kind of help them out a little bit. But again, I'm not for the $10 fee, but I am for getting the security thing back on the table, and that needs to be discussed and see what needs to be done.
I would agree with you that, I know we've discussed, whether it be the railing there, the rusty railing going up to the courthouse. Has that been addressed yet? That's a liability issue.
Yeah. There's been a temporary fix, but it was part of a bigger plan with that whole CIP project.
All right, well, that needs to be done, the security for the parking garage. You know, these things need to come before us. But I don't think we should muddy the waters with that issue, with this opportunity that the General Assembly has given us to collect these additional funds in this manner. The question is, do we think that this is the appropriate way to collect the funds or not? And, you know, I understand both sides. I think both sides have reasonable arguments, so don't fault anyone for taking one position or the other. But I guess do have some concern that you're placing a greater burden on a smaller segment of society. And fortunately, I haven't had a speeding ticket since 2003, the month I moved to my home, because I didn't realize what the speed limit was on 811. Trust me, I learned the first time after I got that first speeding ticket. I mean, I don't think I'd been there for a week, and I got that ticket. I'm not terribly thrilled with some of the opportunities that the General Assembly has given us to collect more taxes, and this just seems to be one more of those opportunities. So I'm personally going to be opposed. But I will entertain a motion from someone, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, I would make a motion that we deny ordinance number 0072720-01.
You mean dash 03?
I'm sorry, 03.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mrs. Bainsley to deny this ordinance. Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes to deny.
Right, so a vote to the affirmative
The motion
is
should
to
be to
deny.
approve.
Okay. So,
Yes to deny.
Mrs. Parker?
No.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Tuck?
No.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that's a 4-3 vote to deny. Got that for the record? All right. Next, we have item 9A1, the item that was pulled from the consent agenda. This is a consideration of a resolution to accept and appropriate the CARES Act COVID-19 grant for the registrar's office. This is resolution R072720-06. Mr. Hiss.
Yeah, I think I'll defer to Ms. Barbara Gunter and let her explain where this funding is coming from and what it'd be used for.
Yes, sir. Happy to do that. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Barbara.
The CARES Act funding is coming from the Department of Elections. They were granted $9 million in CARES Act funding. They used a large portion of that for the May city-town elections and for the June primaries. After they settled those expenses, the State Board of Elections voted to take the remainder of the money and to divide it among the localities in Virginia. They used a formula based on the population of each locality so that they could more fairly cover expenses for those localities. So Bedford County was allotted $71,618 from the remainder of the State Board's money, CARES Act money. It is designated to be used for expenditures related to protecting the health and safety of the voters, the poll workers, and the staff in the elections office. The monies can also be used for additional expenses that we will incur related to COVID-19 due to the increase in absentee balloting and early voting. So that would allow us the opportunity to offset some of the expenses that we're going to have, such as additional ballots that have to be printed, the additional postage and the envelopes and so forth that will be used. It will allow us to cover some of the salary expenses for people that will be helping process the additional ballots and wait on the additional voters that will be voting in person absentee due to COVID-19. So it's merely an opportunity to take advantage of those funds rather than our money that's in our budget, and hopefully we'll have money left over the remainder of the year that will go back into the general fund. But it will allow us to make sure that we're providing advertising to our voters to let them know what their options are, and then to offset some of the expenses that we'll incur.
All right.
And I'll be happy to answer any other questions you may
Yes,
have.
I have a couple. The 71,000, you said the money that you don't use go back in the general fund. My understanding is you have to use it or lose it.
The money from the grant we
You'll save.
absolutely have
That's
to
right,
use,
that's right.
but
But you'll
that's
save
going
other pockets, I understand. Okay.
Correct. It won't dip into our
Now, this
budget.
71,000 is not part of the 6.9
No, it
that's
is
a
not
whole,
part of the
that's a whole
county's
separate
CARES
pool.
Act.
Okay. Okay. To me, and I'll tell you again that if you don't use the CARES Act money, it goes back to the feds. Doesn't go back to the state for them to use. It goes back to the federal government. So I'm in favor of using it. It's not costing us anything, and we're going to lose it if we don't use it.
Correct.
All right, any other questions for Barbara?
For Robert?
Okay, for Barbara.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, I'll open it up to the board for discussion and possible action.
I'd like to bring it to a vote if nobody has
Miss-
any discussion.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, were you going to make the motion to, go ahead.
Make the motion to approve it.
Yeah, you got to read the number.
R072720-06.
Okay, I'm making a motion that we approve this.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mr. Davis. Since it involves money, I still have to take a roll call. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. All right, next we have item 9A, consideration of a resolution approving the addition of the County of Campbell to the Regional Communications System Agreement, Resolution R0727220-04. Staff presentation by E911 Manager Jeff Johnson. Jeff's probably thinking, why couldn't we have done this earlier?
I thought you were retired.
My last official action. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, on June the 16th, 2020, the Campbell County Board of Supervisors approved the attached amendment to the 2011 Emergency Communications Regional Cooperation Cooperative Agreement and formally requested to join the regional radio system. The Regional Radio Board approved this amendment on July the 10th of 2020, and also the Amherst County Board of Supervisors approved it last week at their meeting. The amendment provides for incorporating Campbell County as an equal voting member of the Regional Radio Board and fully incorporating their new communications equipment into the Regional Emergency Radio Communications System. Campbell County will pay a one-time buy-in fee of $1,620,833 and pay for the equipment necessary to integrate into the system. Campbell will see some savings by integrating into the regional system by sharing equipment and capacity. Campbell's radios will also become interoperable with Lynchburg's, Amherst, and Bedford's for improved communications. Once installed, the Central Virginia Radio Communications Board will maintain all of Campbell's radios and equipment as done for the current members. Each of the current member jurisdictions and the Planning District Commission need to offer their approval for Campbell to join the system.
All right, any questions from staff?
Seems like this is a good thing.
It is very good.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
I'll open
Thank
it
you,
up to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Parker.
if there's no discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Let's see.
Resolution
Resolution R0727220-04.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mrs. Parker. Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Next, we have consideration of a resolution to accept and appropriate funds for the stream exclusion fence line weed management program. Resolution R0727220-05. Staff presentation by Extension Agent Scott Baker.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to come before you. I was asked to give a little background on a new cost share program that is jointly funded by by you all through Bedford County and then matched with the Peaks of Otter Soil and Water Conservation District. So just a little bit of history. Bedford County has one of the highest participation rates of farmers that enter into these agreements with the state and federal government to voluntarily exclude their livestock from surface water. These projects, usually involve a fair amount of fencing, and these contracts that the farmers enter into usually run between 10 and 15 years. So the farmers are responsible to keep these projects managed and up to date so that they are functional. Because things grow into fences, annual maintenance is required. So if you've got miles of fence in the county, which we now do, that are excluding livestock from surface water, that's protecting the water that we all drink, there can be a significant cost in keeping those fences up. So to help address this need, about a year ago, the Bedford County Agricultural Economic Advisory Board brought this issue up. There's a program similar to this in Wythe County, I believe, targeted a little bit more at invasive plants, but some of the same concepts. So they asked me to take a look at that. I brought them back some information. They agreed to seek some funding for a pilot program from the county starting in this fiscal year that would be put into my local cooperative extension budget, contingent upon finding a funding partner to pay into this. So the Peaks of Otter Soil and Water Conservation District is the logical partner because they implement most of these best management practices here in Bedford County. So they have a vested interest in maintaining these projects, and they agreed to match the funds that the county was willing to put in. So the total pilot program is $5,000 for this fiscal year. So the way we set it up is that my office would handle all the logistics. I'll work with the farmers. I'll take the applications. I'll make sure they do the right things. And then the money would be handled by the Department of Fiscal Management here in the county. So the Soil and Water District would transfer their $2,500 to the county, and then the county would provide those cost share rebates to the farmers that voluntarily participate in the program. So it's a cost share program that's set up as a 50-50 deal, so the farmers have to pay 50% of the cost of any herbicides that they want to buy to manage these weeds within the stream fences. And it's a relatively small amount. We didn't know how this was going to go, so we said, well, let's start with, the maximum they can get back is $125. That would be based on them spending $250 in herbicides to manage these weeds. We'll just kind of see how it goes this year. If we get high participation rates, maybe we would seek to increase the program in the following fiscal year. So this program actually got off the ground in July 1st of this year. I've probably had about 10 applications. It's sort of a soft opening. We're just getting the word out now. So since the Soil and Water District is providing the funds to the county in a matching grant to administer the program, I was instructed to come to explain the program so you all can adopt the resolution to officially accept those funds from the Soil and Water Conservation District so that we can implement the program. Questions?
Yes.
So is the weeds less dangerous than the herbicides that that's killing them? So you're putting some, like weed killer
Yeah,
near
just
the streams,
I'm sorry. Just in the fence lines.
but near the streams.
Right, but these buffers are at least 30 feet, and there's a vegetative buffer from the fence to the water. So there's no way that those herbicides would reach the water as long as they're applied appropriately, which is part of my job to make sure they do it that way.
Seems dangerous to me.
So by adopting the resolution to accept the $2,500, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're also committing to contributing $2,500, is that correct?
Yeah, so that I sought that through, or the Ag Board asked me to seek that
Right,
funding
right.
in the
And
budget.
how many
you
is
all
that?
passed.
40 applicants that you can do?
Yeah, if you do the math, if everybody sought
So it's
for the.
about 40.
Yeah, yeah. And that was just, honestly, it was a guess. We didn't know what kind of participation. I've talked to a lot of farmers that are interested in it. We'll see if they follow through.
Is it $2,500 total from the county?
Yes. And matched by 25 from $2,500 from the Soil and Water District.
And that covers the herbicides. I got to tell you, I think it's the most absurd thing. Scott, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you and what you guys do. But I got to tell you, if every single tree hugger on the planet could have his way, they'd have buffalo and moose and elk and everything else running all over and drinking out of these creeks and streams and peeing and pooping in them. But if a cow does it, it's the worst thing on the planet. And I would never do it on my farm. And I would resent the government terribly badly if they ever came into my place and suggested it. And because I look at these places, and the next thing they go from weeds to swamp to marsh, and there is no running water. And I think it's a huge waste of money. But $2,500 is a drop in the bucket to the county to spend.
I guess my question on that is 2,500 is matching 2,500, but then that also only represents 50% because the farmers themselves are going to pay. They're going to double that, right? So really, you're asking us for 2,500, and the net result is going to end up being 10,000 because it's going to be matched by soil and conservation, and
you're only
matched again by the farmer, right?
So that would be the max that the county pays if enough farmers participate. And I think one of the keys of these programs is that to date anyway, they're all voluntary incentive based. So if there's farmers that want to do it, they can do it. If there's those that choose not to.
Do you have an application here for Mr. Davis that he could?
I got to tell you, I would be opposed to giving up 10,000 or more for this. I mean, those farmers got a whale of a deal on automatic waterers, water lines, fencing. It's a real sweet deal. I would never do it, but it's welfare. I've been in agriculture all my life, and to me, it's insulting.
Do we have this in the budget already approved? 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't know we approved the budget. We kind of put it on hold to see how.
No, we approved the budget.
approved the budget.
I think it's worth clarifying that the $2,500 from the county for this program is already in the FY21 budget. This is just taking the $2,500 from the Peaks of Water Soil and receiving it and doing the necessary budget adjustment in order to bring it up to the $5,000 total program funding.
I seem to be out of the loop in all this stuff.
So, Mr. Chair, it's voluntary and it's already in the budget.
Any other questions?
I couldn't hear what Tammy said.
It's voluntary,
It's-
and it's already in the budget.
So all we're talking about now is just taking the money that's on.
The resolution.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. All right, I'll open it to the board for discussion and action.
I'd just like to hear, Edward, do you have expenses near your?
I sure do.
Do you have you put a?
And
application
$125 won't maintain
Diddley?
around my yard, much
Yeah.
less. But yes.
But you won't get any of the creeks.
But, do you put herbicides around your, tell me about how you, is this important to have herbicides near your fence, or are they just?
I personally don't, but other members of my family do.
Okay.
If you don't spray it, it's gonna turn into a forest weed patch.
You
so
eat-
gotta do something.
You either spray it.
And you can't get in there with a vehicle. You can't get in there.
Weed eat it.
You've got to maintain the growth off of the fences, or what you got in that grant, you're gonna more than spend
Yeah.
repairing everything.
Edgar gets out there with a weed eater.
I do use my mower.
That's good, needed that info.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we will adopt resolution R072720-05.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mr. Tuck to approve this resolution. Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Of course.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Correct. Yep.
Ms. Danson?
Oh, yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
The chair votes yes.
Was that a 7-0?
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't hear Ms. Parker.
Consideration of a resolution approving the revised procurement policy. Resolution R072720-07. Staff presentation by Finance Director Ashley.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me fine? Okay. So before you is an updated policy. It's a procurement policy that, to my knowledge, has not been updated since 2005. And so what this update does is it brings us into line with current state and federal regulations and guidelines, so that as we're spending federal funds that we receive, state funds that we receive, in addition to county funds, that we are in compliance with everything. This policy does maintain the $50,000 threshold that we currently have for board approval. It would also require board approval for any contract amendments that are in excess of 25% of the original contract budget amount, or $50,000, whichever is greater. It also establishes some thresholds that require or trigger a finance review and approval and county administration approval. We do currently have those processes in place, we just don't really have it written and formal, so this just kind of formalizes everything and again brings the thresholds more in line with current regulations. The policy would also set tiers that establish when we need, say, 1 quotation from a vendor versus 3 quotations from a vendor, or actually going out for a formal bidding process or RFP process. And then finally, towards the end of it, there's some language in there that addresses conflicts of interest. Again, this is to bring us, we kind of have the guidelines in there, but the federal regulations actually require that we have it written specifically to state that we will not accept gifts from, you know, any vendors that are bidding on our projects, that if I, as a finance director, am putting out a bid and a vendor applies that I have some relation to in terms of how it's defined within this contract, that I would then recuse myself from the process. And then it also puts the language in there that we would not falsify any information. This is just the policy. We would probably, right now, the process is to kind of make sure that all of this is done as semi-manual, but once the new financial system gets in place, this will all actually be able to be maintained and facilitated through our Munis financial system using actual purchase orders and going through an electronic workflow process to ensure that it workflows to the appropriate people. We are recommending that this policy would be in place effective September 1st. That's just to allow us time to get this out to staff, make sure that they're aware of the new processes, and so that they can be in compliance when they make their purchases. Any questions?
I guess I have one. When it comes to the change orders, it says up to 25% of the original contract amount or $50,000, whichever is greater. Why is it whichever is greater? I mean, like if we had a contract for say $10,000, then we were going to modify that contract by $5,000. That would be a 50% modification.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that that should probably go through some type of approval process. And this is saying, well, as long as it's under the 50,000 threshold,
Yeah.
it's okay.
So as we were going through and doing this, we pulled a lot of policies from surrounding localities, different localities in the state. We also had our external auditors kind of review everything, and that was just what we were seeing, you know, as we were looking at everything. This is kind of the norm and how it's done, and then it also becomes what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, you know, at what point do you want to be inundated with, you know, all of these requests, I guess is more or less what it comes down to. You know, if we say 50% and that's it, and we don't say or 50,000, which is greater, then every time we have 50% change, whether it's $500 or $50,000, then that's coming through the board, and that's going to probably be a lot of requests that have to come through the board. So again, and looking at the effort, level of effort, I guess, versus the dollars involved, it became just a staff recommendation on what would be.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I appreciate your point. I also agree that, I mean, if you're talking about a $500 change, that's one thing, but several $5,000 changes over the course of a year could be significant.
I mean, I understand we don't want to have to, we could slow down everything if we have to get in negotiations for all these different contracts. I'm just concerned about accountability. That's all.
I understand, and I think maybe a good point is that if you look at the tier above that, there's a different percentage, and up to that $50 amount that it would require Mr. Hiss's approval. So I mean, he could always, not sure of all the legalities there, but I'm sure that he could reach out and get, you know, input if he felt it was necessary. So it's not like it's up to that point, staff can just do whatever they want. I mean, there are other levels of review and approval in place to hit those other levels up to that 50,000.
Do you have those other levels with you?
I do. It's in the policy, actually. Hold on, let me find it. Department level approval is up to $5,000 or 5% of the original contract amount. Finance approval is up to 10% or $30,000 of the contract amount. Again, all of these are whichever is greater. And then county administration approval is up to the $50,000 or 25%, and then anything that hits that 25% or $50,000 or above is when it comes to the board.
I remember when we bumped it up to 50,000 a few years ago. So, and I remember why we did that. Anyway, okay.
And
Well,
I would like to say too, if it's a construction award, that if the available funds exceed more than 10%, then that does have to come. So your construction contracts are where you're gonna see more of your contract modifications.
Okay. Yeah, it was mainly so that the board wasn't having to be inundated with lots of little contracts. So there was a threshold, and it had been, I think, 30,000 for decades. Or something.
Yeah, a long time, yes.
And so it was just sort of an inflationary thing to bump to 50.
And kind of another check in place too is that even though it's not necessarily coming to board approval up until the 50,000, it is still having to hit that formal RFP and bidding process. So it's all very public at that point, which kind of gives another level of oversight there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you can just go and
Right.
in a mowing contract with everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, and even to, the policy even allows for like annual contracts that we would base it off the total dollar value of the annual contract. So even if it's an annual contract, if it's hitting that $50,000 threshold, it's gonna come before the board.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff?
Yeah.
All right. I'll open it up to the board for discussion and possible action.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no discussion, I make a motion that we approve the revised procurement policy resolution R 072720-07.
All right. For the motion from Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Mr. Chair, we have like maybe a 2-minute recess, just
Sure. We're going to take a 2-minute recess.
Water.
That ain't long. I get 45-minute drive.
Well, I did too, just the fact. I feel like I'm sitting flat on the floor.
Alan's like, really? Oh, God. And I'll
Sometimes.
remind everyone to go beyond 10:30, I believe we will require a motion, so let's speed it up.
If I go beyond 10:30, I'm gonna require some food.
That's right, sit down for pizza. What do you?
I
Is
know.
there pizza?
I'm gonna need an injection in my back.
Bridget likes to cut it short.
I was on a job all day.
I'll buy.
Hanging on both.
All right,
Oh,
next we have board committee reports.
Would you like me to speak?
Yes, please.
Now you can speak. We won't put the timer on you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how much time. That was like being shot out of a cannon trying to do this. What was it? How many minutes did you give me?
3.
3, oh my gosh.
So now you got 4.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
I got 4 now, thank you, Ed.
We remember everything you first get one.
And as you can see, I have to hold fast to that because
I got it.
otherwise it can.
I got it. I'm
Backfire.
gonna try to be as brief this time as I can, but maybe not quite as brief, because I'm sure none of that made any sense to you at all. The reason I'm up here is because we're getting close to the end of this project, and we've had some issues that have come up that we need to deal with, and you guys need to understand what we're doing. And I was giving you trying to give you a brief reminder of what these contract agreements were. The original one we wrote up was an inclusive contract that had everything in it, and so Blue Ridge Towers was supposed to do everything, pretty much turnkey, after the fact maintenance and management. That was all taken out, and instead the contract that was adopted and approved and signed just was about construction of the system. We issued an RFP. Bob, I know you're tired. We issued an RFP, which we got one respondent, is that correct? And that was for maintenance. That's just basically doing the grounds maintenance and, basic equipment and what have you. And I understand that sometime maybe next month, another RFP will go out that'll handle not maintenance, but the management portion. And the management, I need to go over that real quick so you understand what it means. It's the actual business of running the tenant relations, marketing the towers, and other communications provider. And my thoughts were, I don't believe the county wants to take that on. I think that's something that you're going to have to let an outside person do. And the problem is, we know that Anthony is probably not going to be interested in doing it at this point because he's had kind of a bad run with us, some disillusionment because of delays and stuff that were outside of his control, and it was sort of county-related people that were getting in the way, and we didn't do anything about it or couldn't do anything about it, and so I don't know that he'd be interested in moving forward with management of the system. So anyway, my solution that I came up with, one solution was to, of course, to issue the management RFP, which Mr. Hiss has told me that's going to happen, and see if maybe we could bury the hatchet. Maybe Anthony would be interested in doing that. Another solution that we've come up with, some of the people in our committee, is that to have an independent private corporation deal with management. Members of the board to be made up of appropriately knowledgeable individuals from our area who have the best interests of the people of Bedford County. Among these people would be a general manager, a legal advisor, engineering technical advisor, financial advisor, and tower marketing expert. This would remove all the burden off the county government, but it would still maintain ownership and control. This approach is already approved by delegates Kathy Byron and Wendell Walker, We would like to see Liberty University take part in this effort, as Liberty has significant interest in what we're doing here in Bedford County. In the end, I would like for everybody to calm down and finish the work and get this thing off the ground. There's plenty of blame to go around for all the problems and bickering. Communications is key to understanding, and we are not doing our best in this area. I myself have been guilty of not getting it straight, so I should know, and Mr. Davis knows well, and I've already stuck my foot in my mouth today and yesterday, etc. I would like to say that Blue Ridge Towers has done a Herculean feat in getting Phase 1 done in spite of many obstacles, both the COVID-19 pandemic and all the ones the county and others have created. One of the fears of doing an RFP to do management in particular is that if we bring in an outsider like a large tower corporation, Crown Castle, American Tower, somebody like that, to manage it, we'll lose total control, and they don't have really any interest in WISPs or wireless internet providers. They might find a way to knock those people off the tower, we lose our internet. The other possibility is, and I know this to be a fact, at some point, if they feel like those towers are profitable, they're going to offer the county an offer to buy those things, and then you will lose complete control. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I know you've got some decisions to make. You might want to think about this as you make those decisions. Are there any questions about what I've said? Do you understand where I'm coming from on this problem, with Anthony not wanting to do this?
Well, I think at this point, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the first thing is to get this project off the ground and get it completed.
That's what I said.
And so after that's done and everything's handed off, then we can consider the marketing. Appreciate
Okay.
your plea for that.
Yeah, I just want you
And
to
I would like to say this too. I think you've made it very abundantly clear that the county is completely guilty of this delay.
I
don't think you need to repeat it anymore.
I'm not going to say that the county is completely 100% guilty. I think
Right.
there's guilt to go around on both sides of the table. We're doing a great job. I think we're doing something that the rest of the country is probably going to look at and try to do the same thing we did. So I want to do it right.
Well, I hope you do it better than we did it.
Well, I'm going to try to help us get that done.
Well, I understand, it's a learning process.
It is.
It's not something we've done before.
No.
And it just hadn't been easy.
Okay. It had.
I would like to say you have helped us get it done. A lot of where we are is because of all the input you've given us. I would thank you and the committee members. You guys have done a great job for a lot of years.
I appreciate
and have been dedicated to showing up at meetings, and you worked through all of this, and I really appreciate you.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. The Finance Committee had a report in the packet, or I think we sent it out on Friday, about the CARES Act funding. So just as a quick reminder, the Bedford County received $6.9 million in change. This is federal money that flows through the state. State decided to award these funds on a pro rata basis based on population. And we have, local governments have some restrictions as to what we can spend our funds on. Of course, one of the biggest restrictions is that we have to have these funds spent by the end of December, which creates challenges in terms of what we can do and what we can accomplish. So without just summarizing the report real quick, as quick as I can, I convened a number of different stakeholders who I figured had coronavirus expenditures and also have outreach into the community for community impact as well, because I think there's ways that we can help community members also, whether some individually or businesses and nonprofits, so who have suffered through this whole coronavirus situation through really no fault of their own. So the goals of the funding program are to establish funds to reimburse local governments, meaning the county and the town, for expenses incurred and anticipated from coronavirus, provide relief for COVID-affected businesses and nonprofits, and we have a program to do that. Enhance broadband infrastructure to further accommodate distance learning, telecommuting, and home-based businesses. And finally, to assist low and moderate income residents further impacted by COVID. I think, overall, we identified several, I would say, funding categories or buckets, if you want to call it that, for consideration. One is a Bedford County category for reimbursables for the Bedford County government. That'd be overtime, initial staff response, IT expenses, personal protective equipment, decontamination equipment, office retrofits, public meeting broadcast costs. We have some nursing home expenses as well. And there's probably going to be some unknown future expenses over the next 3 or 4 months that we may not even know about as of today. School system has similar type of expenses, so we have funds allocated towards the school system as well. Of course, they did some other things. They have personal protective equipment, the meal delivery program that they conducted during school closure, the curriculum development that they've had to work through during the spring and also going forward, the training and the equipment and technology that's been needed to be used to support all that. Of course, the town of Bedford is a category unto themselves. Per the CARES Act legislation, we have to allocate a pro rata share to the town of Bedford. So we have a total in that for them. Again, speaking with and meeting with the town manager and assistant town manager, they have similar expenses that we do, testing, IT expenses, personal protective equipment. And of course, they've already had a business and nonprofit grant program, and they would like to, get reimbursed for that. They've taken that out of their general funds to date. One of the bigger programs that we're ready to go with next week is the economic development and kind of tourism approach. We have Tracy Bolito is taking the lead and done a great job in formulating a $1 million back to business grant program, and she has there's a lot of information in your packet here about what those criteria are, and every other local government around here is doing this to assist their businesses. So we figured we probably need to do the same thing to help our businesses as well that fit within the criteria that we've established. That program's been presented to the Economic Development Authority. They had a good discussion, and the Economic Development Authority voted to recommend its approval to the Board of Supervisors. A couple other things, and then I'll be quiet for questions, is broadband development. I've met with couple meetings with representatives of the Broadband Advisory Committee. I wish Alan probably would have stayed. We have 2 different things that we're looking at in terms of broadband development. Number one is this phase 2. Mr. Boaz was just talking about the finishing of phase 1. Phase 2, we've always kind of known that we're going to have some dead areas as a result of this tower project, and that we would supplement the existing towers with they're mini towers. Basically, they're 80-foot, 90-foot type towers. They're basically half the size and substantially less the cost. On the high side, we budget about $40,000 per tower. Could be less than that, but we have an estimated need of about 30 of those towers. It could be less. It could be a little bit more. Not sure if we can get all those done between now and the end of December, but the advisory committee would like to make a run at trying to get as many done as we can. So the advisory committee actually is helping staff draft an RFP and proposal so we can get that information out to the different tower providers so that they can submit to us what type of towers and what type of placements they would put them and the different services they would offer. The other program through broadband development, and this kind of goes with learn from home, well, it could be from work from home too, is helping out with some defraying some one-time hookup costs and some temporary hotspots for internet services. Of course, we'd look at school-age students and focus on some low to moderate income citizens, but that wouldn't be the only focus. It could be other. We haven't really established that criteria yet. Final thing I would say is just we've had our nonprofits in our community have been working hard with our citizens. As I think everybody knows, we have citizens in this community who have been suffering the results of coronavirus, again, through no fault of their own, just whether it's unemployment or other types of problems. And our nonprofits have been pretty stretched in terms of what they're doing. And of course, they're having to think about their health. I think what's also affecting a lot of our nonprofits is that with the financial condition of the country right now, and I've heard this direct from the mouth of several nonprofits, is their fundraising is way down, and they can't have their fundraising events really right now. So so not only are they having to ramp up to provide services to our citizens, but at the same time, their funds and fundraising is drastically decreased. And nonprofits play an important role in our community as sort of that community safety net type, non-governmental community safety net aspect of our community. And then also through the nonprofits, we've identified a potential program that we would work with 3 in particular, Agape, Lake Christian Ministries, and Bedford Christian Ministries, to help flow a little bit of money to mostly low and moderate income individuals who may need some assistance with some power, water, and sewer bills and things like that. These nonprofits already do that type of work. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel and try to find staff to do that type of work when we already have people doing this for us. And we thought we would, again, that's kind of, we're still working out the kinks and bugs in that program. So the bottom line is, from the Finance Committee, is where we are with the CARES Act. There's still some things that needs to be worked on, but there are a few items that we'd like to try to proceed with. And number 1 would be proceed with a $1 million back to business program. Again, EDA has looked at it and has endorsed the criteria in the program. Tracy's itching and ready to go with it. So that would be the other thing. The other item we'd like to continue to work with is to publish an RFP for the broadband mini tower development. Again, we're working with certain members of the Broadband Advisory Committee in order to put that RFP together. We'd like to get that out on the street as soon as possible so our internet providers can respond accordingly. We'd also like to proceed with the nonprofit assistance program. There's a couple of things, housekeeping things that still need to be worked out with that, but we'd like to continue to do that. And then begin collecting the different expense requisitions for the county, town, and school expenses that have already incurred. So there are some things we'd like to work towards, start working on immediately in terms of basically taking it from concept and getting into action, so to speak, is kind of where the phase that we're working at. And then the other recommendation in the report is, I know this was a lot to digest for one meeting, and there's still some things, obviously some details that still need to be worked out, but that the Board of Supervisors adopt and appropriate the CARES Act fund budget during its next meeting in August. Because there's some things we still may want to look at, and I still need to work on some things myself. But I know that's kind of a high-level overview. I'm trying to be respectful of time. So if there's any initial questions or concerns.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've heard from parents who want to homeschool, who haven't homeschooled before, and they ask if they can get any help with curriculum. I wondered if there is that homeschool group that came, a private school that do funding, and they do these grants. Remember they came and they asked if they could be a 501c to get their, you know what I'm talking about?
It's for Renew a Nation.
Was it Renew a Nation? They're right here in Bedford County. If they could be one of these nonprofits that parents don't like what's going on right now in the public, maybe they feel like they don't want to send their kids back into the school for health, whatever reasons. They want to keep them home. If they, maybe we can work with Renew a Nation and give them a part of this nonprofit assistance that you asked.
I think we could. I mean, when we get ready for that program, I just need their contact information and we can just send them an application directly. And
Well, I would just ask that you're not limited to people that are new to homeschooling.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I was.
Yeah, I mean,
actually bring
and that's
something like that up.
yeah, and that's the spirit of this. I mean, we don't want it to just be for public school children. And we know that there's private school and homeschool. Of course, we have a public school apparatus, so it's kind of easy to make contact with those. But I mean,
But we do have this apparatus.
but we certainly don't want to
Renew a
exclude.
Nation.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to exclude.
Well, you know, I see the school system has a Chromebook deployment, things like that. If I recall correctly, 12% of Bedford County homes homeschool. That's one of the largest percentages in the entire state.
Going up with a bullet.
What's that?
Going up with a bullet. It's 12%
Yeah,
now,
I
it's gonna be
mean, and that was
20%.
before the COVID.
Right.
So, and they pay the same taxes that everyone else pays.
And they're not getting the Chromebooks.
And they're not getting the Chromebooks, and they're not getting those, they have to still go and buy those things to be able to do what they're doing, so, you know, I think they need to somehow be included in this. In addition, I'm all about economic development, but I guess I've got some questions. The governor announced some stuff today. Some more funding for,
70 million.
yeah. And it seems like we're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, double and triple dipping here.
So actually, I saw that too this afternoon, and I actually asked Tracy to help me out with this. Maybe I can defer to Tracy and let her answer this question, because we anticipate this might come up. So if you want
I'll just say, the Small Business Development Center director said, based on that stringent criteria, it's gonna help so few businesses in our region. She could only think of one company it might help. Because the criteria is that no company that has already received a PPP or EIDL is eligible for that grant program.
Well, I don't want anybody to, if they've already received one of those loans, I don't want them being eligible for this either.
Well, almost all of our businesses have received something like that, but it hasn't been enough. I mean, it's been so, like, when I talk to companies.
That's I've seen $150,000 loans that are, quote, not, you don't have to pay them back. That's corporate welfare. I mean, we're giving out money like it's candy. And I've got some issues with this philosophically. I mean, I want to see our small businesses survive, but I don't want them dependent on government to survive. I want government to get the hell out of the way.
But governments put them in the place that they are in because they weren't allowed, and now we have small businesses that are closing and jobs that we're losing right here in Bedford County. We need to do more.
This is, we can call it the CARES program, that the Bedford County Supervisors care about our businesses. It's $5,000, it is flat $5,000. It is showing this isn't gonna help all of your situation, but we want you to know that, you know, you can use this to help offset some of the things that you've incurred.
Also, I think it's important, one statistical metric though, is that it just, one of the gateways just for the county program is that you have to show that you've had a 20% loss of, I don't
So,
know. There's a
Mr. Chair.
So-
Yes.
In 2007, when the Community Reinvestment Act ruined home mortgages and we suffered, every business owner that I know, including myself, suffered a 30% loss. And had I been over leveraged, I would have been, you know, I'd have had to close my doors. And I'm not trying to be difficult here, but I'm not, before I would vote in favor of this, I would want to know more of the details. Just to give somebody $5,000, I mean, $5,000 wouldn't light my, turn on my lights long enough to keep me going. But yet you take $1 million out of this, that's a significant chunk of change to just be throwing around.
It's gonna help 200 businesses, so if
Oh.
we have 3,471 businesses in Bedford County. So as an EDA in our office, we tried to think, which businesses are hurting the most? It's the ones that are between making an annual revenue of 50,000 a year to 3 million. It's not gonna even help the bigger ones. They've got their own things to deal with. And then you've got your one-person shows, and they've usually got themselves together. It's that spot between 50,000 and 3 million is what
That's a
the
big
EDA
gap.
believes we really need to focus on.
I think it's a mistake.
I guess I get it. One, the town's already done this within the town, so they're not eligible, right? If they've already
If they
received from the
received the
town.
5,000 grant from the town, no, they would not be.
And then what you're saying is this thing that the governor announced is one company in all of Bedford County would be eligible?
Well, it was her on the phone today saying, I read the criteria and so many have received a little bit of PPP or EIDL. And this says if you've received anything at all, even a town grant, you're not eligible for that grant that the governor came out with. So I think that in their mind, they were trying to help a certain type of company, entertainment and different types. But this program for us, I think, will help small manufacturers. I know one already that's counting on this money.
Well, maybe we need
heard about
to
it.
not put our cart before the horse. I mean, I guess my issue comes down to we are $5,000 one isn't gonna make or break a business, right? It's not. I mean, I see the Chamber of Commerce is included in here. I mean, Chamber of Commerce gets their money from fees and
events, which they can't
Membership.
have, which is why we put them on there, because they are suffering. They had to lay off half of their workforce at both of the chambers that I talk about in there.
Yeah, I guess I look at this as we are creating a corporate welfare system, and then we're basically taking out $1 million, and then what ends up happening, like what the governor is saying is if they've already gotten this money, then they're not going to be eligible for this. And my experience with these things is the companies that have already gotten this money, they're very savvy when it comes to getting their fingers on government dollars, right? They know how to work the system. And the ones that don't know how to work the system, those are the ones that probably need a little bit more help. The ones who haven't already received those funds. And so I think that criteria that the governor has on those funds is probably a good criteria, because otherwise, I mean, I'm not gonna get too descriptive of the company, but I know a company in Forest. All we're doing is making a couple wealthy.
I know, Mr. Chairman.
And it frustrates me because it's not really helping a business, it's helping a couple of individuals.
Chairman, I hear what you're saying, and I understand why you're saying that. However, this particular program it has the criteria that will help the ones that haven't got the help. They have suffered in one way or another, and they have to show that in what they write in the grant application. We're not going to just pass out money. We're going to only give it to the ones that need it most.
And if they haven't gotten the help, doesn't the governor's program do that?
I'm sorry to say it does not. After reading the criteria, it probably will only help a certain select number of them.
Do you have to, are there going to be 200 applicants in Bedford County, you think?
I hope so.
I mean, well, I know you hope so, but do you feel like
Count
that you'll
me
have?
in.
I believe so, yes. I do.
We've maybe we
I'll
could
do
have
it.
a work
Do
session
it.
about the 6.7. I mean, this is nothing we're gonna be able to solve tonight, is it?
6.9.
Why don't you want us to start the program now?
6.9?
Well, here's the reason. Every single locality around us have already done this program. We're the last ones, so, because we didn't have the funds. So
I wish I had $1 for every time somebody said everybody else is doing that. You know, everybody else is jumping off the cliff. I mean, in high school, everybody's drinking and driving and
I
partying.
understand, but Roanoke County, Botetourt, Campbell, Lynchburg is.
Are we gonna vote on this, or what are we gonna do? with
Yeah,
this?
we have to vote on
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. Robert, how much is the town's share, and is it based on population?
It is 575,000, maybe in change, but.
570.
And it's based on their population.
Say 580, call it 580. And have we, with the broadband, I mean, that's $1.2 million if we designate it for the mini towers, the POPs, then that's $1.2 million of the funds. And the hookups, do we know if we're going to have any kind of special deal for the homeschooled homes or for the students? Are there going to be, because there's a lot of low-income areas that can't afford internet service, no matter if it's Comcast or if it's BRT or whoever. Are we looking at special deals for our school students to have internet access?
We are. We still need to do some work on that little funding category because there's just a lot to wrap your arms around with that. But yeah, that's the idea. I mean, and I'm not trying to single out Blue Ridge Towers, but they're our contractor.
Right.
And so let's just take BriskNet and Blue Ridge Towers, for example. I mean, by the time you sign on and pay your first month of, depending on what your package is, I mean, you're out of pocket $350, $400. And, you know, depending on your situation and how you've been impacted through this whole coronavirus pandemic, and maybe and maybe not even with that, it could just be low to moderate income anyways.
Mhm.
That could be a lot of money.
That's true.
While at the same time you need to educate your children at home. So,
On
and it's just a one-time thing. It's not like we're paying for their internet going forward. That's one of the things we did talk about was when you really need to limit this stuff to one-time stuff, because I talked to some of my colleagues across the state and to go to some of these other points, in the Southern County Administrator, City Managers conference calls, one of the things we've been concerned about with these CARES funds is we don't want to get out there with a certain level of government services and then have to pull that rug out come January 1st and take it away from everybody. So we don't want to set us and the community up for a bad situation. So we really just want to get involved with only one-time expenditure only. So
Could we do
don't-
vouchers?
Yeah, that's part of the thing that we've been talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad to hear you say that. When I was a part of that conversation, I guess, the committee, the broadband committee, they were talking about giving a year of service. and all
Right,
this.
right,
What do you
right.
do the second year? Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Right.
take it away, you can't,
I
at
know.
that point. So I'm really glad to hear that you're just gonna cover getting the equipment in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that and that's just something that some of the wisdom I picked up from some of my colleagues across the state that I think is appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, I would point out it's 10:30 for us to need to
Yeah,
go
we're
on
gonna-
there, we have to have a vote.
Yeah, we need to have a motion to extend our meeting.
I refuse.
I make a motion, we extend that meeting past 10:30.
All right, you've heard the motion from Mr. Scott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
First time we've ever done that.
I have a question, getting to the schools, Mr. Hess. You said we're providing money through this also to the county schools. Can't the county schools send the children back to school? Patrick, maybe that's a question you can answer better.
Not their attorney.
I mean,
It's their option.
it seems to me that if taxpayers paying their hard-earned money, and they have less of it these days, are paying for their kids to go back to schools, yet the kids aren't going back to school, so the parents aren't able to work as they've been accustomed to, and now they have to pay more money to homeschool. I am really reluctant to give the county schools more money for doing less, or for providing less the VHSL just announced today that they're pushing the The athletics program is back till the middle of December. It's funny to me that they can pick the middle of December, which to me is when the weather's a little bit worse around here and we can think about getting more ill. I mean, I'm very disappointed in our school board for electing not to put our kids back to school. The Center for Disease Control, I mean, the information is all over telling you that young people are more resistant to the virus. When they get it, they have less, they show the sickness much less. Their mortality rate is significantly less than adults. I'm really having a hard time understanding why we can't get our kids back to school. And now we're paying them for not.
And a good part of their expenses with the schools is for reimbursements for costs that they've already incurred. I mean, things that Randy could probably speak to it more eloquently than I can because he's intricately involved with it. If we wanted to, I don't know if we want Randy to or not, but a good bit of from my conversations with Randy and with the superintendent, the bulk of what they're asking for is for reimbursement for expenditures they've already incurred. And of course, they have less revenues coming in just like we do. So it would be helpful for them. Some of it is for expenses that they're telegraphed going forward in terms of helping with some of the virtual learning environments that they're having to establish.
Well, like I said, as a parent of a Bedford County public school student, I would seriously, we homeschooled our kids. And I would certainly do it again if I had to do over again, especially under these circumstances. So if I'm going to homeschool my kids, I mean, when we did that, our children weren't permitted to participate in VHSL sports, which is, that's just wicked. And I don't understand that. You want to punish children. I'm not speaking directly to you, Randy, but well, I'm going to just finish up here. I think if people are paying for their kids to be homeschooled, certainly the voucher would be appropriate, and not to go to public schools.
And I would say the General Assembly has brought up the Tebow bill and it got shot down. Actually, I guess it passed the General Assembly and was vetoed by a Democrat governor previously, but yeah, that didn't pass, and so the local school boards don't have the option because the General Assembly won't give them
Right, VHS.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I read these numbers and I didn't realize that we were going to vote on this today. I just thought this was supposed to look at it.
I think it's more information tonight, except it sounds like you're already trying to implement some of these programs, so you need some kind of
Well, and that's
Direction.
just.
If I hadn't finished, I think we should look at this in a work session or more detail and have more questions answered and all that stuff. I mean, it's not our fault that we're the last people in. We had the same amount of time as everybody else, I assume. I have questions like Tracy saying up to $3 million. Well, a company that's doing $3 million a year, $5,000 would not do them any good whatsoever. It'd be just like just throwing $5,000 away, because if they're in bad financial shape at $3 million, $5,000, that's useless to them. So I think some of these things need to be narrowed down to who's getting it, who needs it the most, and not just say, okay, we're just going to spread everything out there and just throw it out there.
and I would agree, just because another locality is doing it doesn't just mean it's the right thing to do. I mean, our governor's dictating that we all have to wear a mask because China did it. Well, you know, they don't exactly have the same governmental system that we have. So, yeah, that's their model.
I would say, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that the Christian ministries and the three evangelical organizations you mentioned, I'm aware of the good that they do, and I'm not opposed to that.
All right, anything else on this? Do you need some type of direction, or
Well,
can we vote on this at our next meeting?
I mean, it's all about timing. I mean, I was hoping to try to get a few things out there, but if we want to wait till August 10th in order to have some more discussion, then that's perfectly appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, my concern about waiting is kicking us down the road is we've got to have this money spent by the end of the year, which means, I mean, I would like to give the county administrator some directions on some stuff that's not controversial. If we know we're going to spend money on broadband, or if we know we're going to spend part of this on something, let him get going, because we're going to be at the end of this thing. And on Tracy's,
We need to get that RFP out.
and on Tracy's end of it, she's got to get these things applied. The money has to be applied for, then distributed, and then quantified, and qualified. And if it's not spent, we lose it.
Well, I have questions on broadband. It might need 30 towers, it might need more, it might not need as many. I mean, we need numbers to go by. Good grief.
Well, we're not going to know broadband until it gets turned on, and then it's too late to use this money to buy the pops. So you really got to take a leap
So
of
you're
faith.
saying it's going to be the end of the year for broadband?
No,
gets
but it'll
turned
be
on?
too late to
Have
get
to
the,
spend it,
you-
so
you-
we
the
have
money's
to
got to be
get this
spent.
RFP out so we can spend it.
And I won't have, and I can't answer all the questions until I get the RFP out
Yeah, I mean, and
and to get the responses.
I'm all for the backfilling tower project. I didn't see specifically the system that we were talking about putting in this room.
Yeah, I mean, I probably didn't cover everything for the county, but yeah, we've talked about doing that, so, yes. So we can broadcast meetings better, and so for the home viewing audience.
And so it doesn't require someone to have to
Yeah,
come do it every time.
yep.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I make a motion?
What's your motion?
My motion is to postpone this to the work session on August 10th, where we can have some discussions and not rush into anything.
I think that's a great idea, Mr. Scott.
I just think we need to, there's a couple of them, like with the RFP, that we're really.
we need to move.
We gotta get that going. It's just, it's the same thing, you guys, it's the same thing as the beginning of the broadband, where we just push things back and push things
We're
back,
gonna
and
end up
now we
leaving all
were like pulling out our hair trying to get it done. I think,
I mean, we're talking about rushing into things. I'm afraid what we're going to do is we're going to rush out of things. We're going to be at the end of the thing having to spend money just to spend money, and we're not going to have time to. I think we need to move while
Is there
we're.
any way we can give the go-ahead with the things that are pertinent, the broadband in particular? Can we move forward with that aspect?
I have no reason to think we can't. I mean, we can't technically vote on this, but we can give consensus to staff to move forward. We're gonna have to take action in August.
Right.
But we need to be able to give some type of consensus, at least on the things that are timely, like an RFP for those towers. We need to give consensus to the board, to the staff, that that's what we want them to do.
Is there anything else besides the broadband that's time sensitive?
I mean, that,
VRWA, are they looking at cutting some people off anytime soon? I saw something about that.
yeah, well, they're gonna have to deal with that, and the town's dealing with it too, is the, what are we gonna do with folks who are way behind in water and power? So that is something, that they do have a number, and they know what's in this packet is what they have in arrears right now, which is about $200,000. That unless something gets paid, we're gonna have a lot of people getting cut off, including some businesses.
Well, and to that end, the town's share is $580,000. We know we're going to give that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
not
mean,
something.
that, by the CARES
We don't
Act,
have any options.
by the
Right, I
CARES
mean,
Act,
that's
we
not
have to
a-
give that, so.
So that you gotta do.
Right. So we can.
But we were gonna still do it on a reimbursement basis. I wasn't gonna write a check for $580,000.
Right.
They would send in requisitions and say, hey, I spent this on this, and then Ashley and her crew would code it and write a check back to the town. So it's not like we're giving a grant.
So if you come down to December the 1st and they've only requested $300,000 of that $580, then that means you've got a month to spend $280,000.
Yeah, but they would have to spend it. I don't think we have to
Yeah, that's right.
appropriate it to them.
Okay.
I think they've already done it. So, anyway, I don't know how you wanna do this.
You got a motion on the floor,
I would be
Mr.
fine.
Chairman. There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, there is a motion
I
to
would say we,
table this.
I would say we table it except for the
Yeah.
1.2 million.
Mr. Scott made a motion to table, so we have to address it.
We've got to address the motion.
So, all those in favor of tabling it, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Nay. All right, so we didn't table it. Is there a substitute motion? Or an alternate motion?
I'll make the motion that we table all but the time-sensitive, and go ahead and give direction so we can do the RFPs for the broadband. Did I hear the town? That's probably not anything we'd have to talk about.
Right.
That's a set amount.
That's
so
right.
That's not any. And then, what was the other one?
That was it. It was broadband, the pop-up towers, the pop towers,
Possibly
the
beyond
town
that,
share.
maybe.
What about Christian ministries?
Yeah, that'd be the nonprofit program, which we still, I still need to do some work on getting that program ready to go.
That's
So
not time sensitive, is it?
it'd be similar to the businesses. It's just, the sooner the better, but it's not totally time sensitive.
We've just got to get that RFP.
And-
That's the main thing.
And I understand that you're
And I'd
not
like-
settled
I'd like to
on,
get this figured out, because, you know.
but she's
one of
got to
the-
do,
one of
she's
the
got to
issues
move.
with COVID is people can't come to the meetings as easily. If we can get a system in here that we wanted for years, that would be a good
Okay,
thing.
well, I'm not debating that, I'm just saying, I'll make the motion.
She's making
that
a motion.
We go ahead and we'll table the rest and we'll work on it at our next meeting, except for the broadband money and the town money, obviously that's gotta go. How about the BRWA, so people don't get cut off, or is that?
Let's wait on that till August 10th, so we just get a
So
little
the
more
two.
information.
So
Yeah.
the broadband.
You got a
and
motion.
The town.
I bring up one thing, that as far as the charities are concerned, food banks are experiencing a big hit right now. And I know Lake Christian Ministries and Bedford Christian Ministries do a lot of
And
that.
that.
So that might be a concept.
Well, that was gonna be through that nonprofit funding program. You know, and the other thing, I mean, you know, I was at a fire commission meeting last week, and I hear from some fire departments, and I gotta think it's with rescue squads too. You know, they've had some coronavirus expenses, same thing.
And fundraising now.
They're not out there fundraising because they can't do any. They can't have their spaghetti dinners right now. So, and that's what all the guys were talking about last week, and they're saying, you know, that may not sound like a whole lot of money to some people, but it's a whole lot of money to them.
Okay.
Where does this leave the EDA funding? Because this has been, I guess it's been advertised, hasn't it?
No, but we have a website ready to go, and a couple of the companies that I know are hurting, I've kind of told them that you guys were gonna make a vote tonight, so it's up to you.
Well, it's not, technically, we can't vote anyway, because
It's not
on the
advertised.
agenda.
Mhm.
You could do a consensus and bring it back for ratification.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got some issues with some of the details.
Sure.
That, you know, whether it's $3 million limits, if they've
We're
already
gonna do a
received,
consensus.
if they've already received $150,000 in those loans, I don't care, I don't want to give them any money.
Well. the-
Can we make it contingent on,
Let's just stick with my original
Yeah.
motion of the time sensitive of the broadband so they can go ahead and
Yep.
do the RFPs.
And the
Can we do that?
nonprofit.
And the nonprofit, I'm fine with that too. Want to do that? Is that good?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. There you go. There's your consensus.
Thank you.
Next, board comments.
I'm hungry.
Hearing none. Board appointments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Edwin Zimmerman to the Recreation Department to represent District 1. He's a longtime educator in Bedford County, is former principal and deep roots over there in the district, and I think he'd be a good addition to the Recreation Board.
Basketball coach in 1980.
You've heard the motion from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, county attorney reports.
We might want to move the county administrator report first, just talk about holiday policy before we have a closed session.
Sure, all right, go ahead. County administrator report.
Again, I'll try to be brief. If everybody read the memo, did a little bit of research based on some requests from the Board of Supervisors to look at our holiday policies. You know, mostly I think the emphasis was to how to handle when additional days are added by the governor, and then consider some other options such as floating holidays, and then eventually reviewing which days the county offices are open to the public. You can read the report if you haven't already. I guess my recommendation would be, unless you want to keep it the same as is, I think it's good information that we've sent on to you, but I'd probably prefer this be referred back to the Personnel Committee for further review. I think would be the appropriate avenue, and then we can bring it back to the board.
Okay.
If that's what.
Sounds good.
All right. On the closed session, we have two different ones, one of which.
And Mr. Chair, there's kind of been a development since our last meeting regarding the airport, and that's what's coming up. And I'm not going to say anything that's not public record.
Thank you.
Probably with Ms. Basley being on the dais. They have this new plan that's in front of TRRC tomorrow, so I'm not sure. I mean, I'm happy to discuss where we are at this point, but that's kind of a whole new wrinkle in the process.
So no, we do not need that closed session?
I'm just as happy to discuss that on the 10th and see what comes out of tomorrow.
Well, is there any information that you have now that we don't know?
Nothing final, no, just what's been submitted.
How about the information we were requested?
I don't have a final report on that. I do have a preliminary.
We don't like preliminary reports, so they're useless.
We like finals.
Yeah, all right, so what about the other?
Fire and rescue will take all of 2 minutes.
I always prefer to know the preliminary.
What's that?
That was one of my main requests. I prefer to know the preliminary.
Well, we can't include Charlotte.
I'd be happy to go home.
Well, we gotta
Do fire and rescue first then.
So I think we need to do the other one first. So if you wanna.
Mr. Chair, is Mr. Cadell, is he here to give some?
Yeah, broadband.
The broadband.
That's the one we were gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, and you said it's gonna take 2 minutes?
No, broadband can take a while. I was just saying.
Fire and rescue.
The other litigation with fire and rescue is going to be real quick.
All right, so we've got to do fire and rescue, then broadband, and then,
Yeah, we got 3 closed sessions.
If we want to do all three. So
Just let's do all three.
it's 11 o'clock. Let's do it.
Come on. we're wasting
Let's
time.
get them done.
Okay.
daylight burning faster than that COVID, the CARES Act money.
Two that we can get done with Charlotte, let's get those done first.
Right. Then I will need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7, consultation with legal counsel regarding probable litigation pertaining specifically to the fire and rescue department, and section 2.2-3711A8 concerning consultation with legal counsel regarding broadband.
So moved.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah.
Mr. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bainsley?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We're in closed session.
I think we're going to try to go across the hall like we have been in the training room, so they can tear down and whatever.